This is the Patriots pregame show, fueled by Duncan.
He's throwing it toward Thornton, left corner of the end zone, caught! Touchdown, New England!
The Patriots pregame show is your source for all the news and information before every game.
He took it to the house again!
There we
and
go!
The Patriots take the lead!
With Mike Dussault, Paul Perillo, and Tamara Brown.
And the Patriots have won their 6th Super Bowl title.
Patriots Nation, welcome to the Patriots pregame show, fueled by Duncan.
All right, this is it. New season.
All that rehearsal and you came up with all right?
Well, I don't know where the new open ends, Paul, so I didn't know what my cue was. I was waiting to be cued, but
Awesome guitar riffs.
awesome guitar riffs, as Matt said.
Cut him some slack. It's the first game.
That's
You
right.
think you'd be prepared. That's my point.
I'm not even supposed to be hosting. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Patriots. What are we doing here? The pregame show? The Patriots pregame show, fueled by Duncan.
This is
and
going to be a good 2 hours.
Oh, I know. We're going to blast through it. And yeah, it's Deuce, it's Tamara, it's Paul. And we don't have Paul. We're, like many teams in the preseason, we're sitting one of our starters tonight. So
Not everybody. We're not going to show everything.
No, there is a new host to the show. However, he is unavailable tonight. So you guys got to just deal with this one. It's PP and the Deuce and Tamara.
To not game planning in the preseason.
There you go. So excited to be here tonight. And for those of you who haven't been watching Patriots Unfiltered, you can see we've got a brand new, beautiful studio here, and we're very excited about that. To go
a lot of changes in New England.
A lot of
changes, not just like Gerard Mayo and Drake May. We got a new studio.
New
and
studio.
Stuff.
It's great. We're excited. We've been, a couple weeks here. We've been going through training camp and, just taking it all in. I mean, it's a whole new era here, the Drake May era, the Jacoby Brissett era, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure we'll get a little of all that tonight, but I don't know, Tamara, how do you feel about this new season? We're kicking things off tonight here, and it's kind of exciting, right?
I'm honestly excited to see something other than practice. Like, guys actually tackling each other, actually seeing what this offense looks like. I don't want to talk about it too much because I know we're going to get into that. But we've seen a lot of practice. We've seen a lot of the same thing, repetition over and over again. So it's going to be nice to see that against a new team.
Right, and then we're going to get probably about to halftime tonight, and we'll be like, okay, I'm ready for the regular season to start.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I am. I do agree with Tamara. You get a little monotony out on the practice field every day. There'll be at least some, I think in listening to Gerard Mayo earlier in the week, he said basically that anybody who's healthy will play tonight. So I think we'll get a chance to see some of the players that we're all interested in. I don't mean to be disrespectful because, obviously there's 90 guys on the roster and everybody's got a story. But I think we want to see how the offense looks, the new offense under Alex Van Pelt, with Jacoby Brissett and Drake May. I think we'll get a chance to see both tonight, at least a little bit.
Yeah, along those lines, I think what I'm kind of curious about is just you've heard them speak all spring about we're going to be a running team. And it's really hard to get a sense of the running game in practice. And now, not to say that this is going to be all everything, but to actually see how well this running game is going to, perform. A lot of questions along the offensive line. That's a big question, I think, for tonight. They've been banged up already. I think their depth is going to be thin tonight. You wonder how that might affect how they manage some of their quarterbacks out there with potentially maybe just 4 real tackles ready to go. But how does the running game look? And are they able to, that foundational piece of this new offense, are they able to, move the ball a little bit and open some things up in the passing game? It seems so much of this offense will be predicated on that running game.
So I don't think I need to do my key to the game anymore because you just did it.
Don't tease that yet. And I notice over there we still have the key, which Hardy left so graciously behind with us. Did we have a season-long key winner last year, Paul? I don't recall.
I don't know, but I'm sure
I feel
it was
like
me.
Paul. Yeah, it was Paul.
I really don't.
I feel like Paul won the key the most amount of times.
Probably. It makes sense. But plenty in store for you guys tonight. We'll have our keys to the game coming up shortly. We'll be joined by Darren Gant from Panthers.com. Give us a little preview of what's going on in Carolina. I know Bryce Young, among others, not expected to play tonight. So we'll see what Darren has to say. And towards the end, we'll get our over-unders as we kind of look and try to predict what will happen here tonight in the preseason game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for everybody else. I mean, we have a little fun in the summer when it's still preseason, and we have our eyes on the rookie class, not just Drake May, but you got Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, 2 guys people are interested in seeing in the wide receiver core, and so we'll watch some of that stuff, but we want to have some fun too. We want to take this. This isn't the opener against Cincinnati that I think we'll take with a little bit more seriousness in terms of previewing the matchups and trying to break down what we think are some some different matchups that might be able to be exploited in the game plan. You're not going to get any of that tonight. You're not going to get any of that the next 3 weeks. But, we'll still have a chance to see, like Hardy used to say, it's our first reference to our old host, what's popular in your ocular and, what would you have your peepers peeled?
My peepers peeled, exactly.
Yeah, so
I miss Hardy.
Some of the things that we want to look for tonight, and I think we want to hear from you as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you are most looking forward to watching tonight when the Panthers hit the field?
So this is kind of a sleeper thing to look at tonight, but the kickers. I'm wondering, like, when it comes to them.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
When it comes to them, are we going to see both of them tonight, or is it going to be more just Ryland that we see tonight?
Yeah, and it's been pretty cose back. I mean, some people are keeping track of all the kicks. I mean, it's hard to really discern.
It's really close.
Yeah.
I think Ryland has been a little better, but they've both been, good, I would say.
Yeah.
Not great.
Yeah. Well, give us a call, 855-PATS-500. Send us an email, webradio@patriots.com. Guys, first things first, we probably have a few people tuning in tonight who aren't regular listeners to either PU or the, post-training camp practice recaps that we do. Paul, just starting with you, what's just been your kind of general takeaway just from training camp? We think we've had 11 practices. I think 6 of them have been padded. A couple of them tough practices, long. It's been hot out there. Just what's kind of your early impression overall of the team, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think there have been periods of time where there have been things that I'm like, okay, I could see some progress there. See some of the things that they want to do defensively. That the coverage at times has been pretty tight. Offensively, a little bit less consistent, but when they have had it going, you see some of the short passing game, quick. There's some rhythm to it, just not sustained enough. But I think we've seen some moments from Brissett. And more importantly, I think what we've seen from Drake May, I think there are times when he's struggled, but I think there have also been times that you sort of look at it and you're like, and I know, Mike, you said this all summer, just the physical skills that we were sold on, we've seen. Mm-hmm. Now it's a matter of finding consistency and continuing that development and getting more comfortable. I think all of the quarterbacks in all of the offense in general has not been smooth in terms of the way that everything has come together. Pre-snap penalties, sloppiness with the football, ball on the ground too much, and the tempo has been erratic. Yeah. I'd like to see some of that stuff improve as we continue camp.
Yeah, what about you, Tamara? What stood out to you?
I definitely think what stood out to me the most is that Jacoby Brissett is definitely the most pro-ready. I think there's definitely is a gap between him and Drake May right now, and that's as expected. And so I don't disagree with Gerard Mayo wanting to say that he is the starter to, as of now, as of week 1. And I think we've seen that, but I've also seen Drake May show flashes of production as well. Obviously, those 2-minute drills have been the toughest part for him, but in 7-on-7 specifically, you see him continue to produce and get better. And so if he can move that into 11-on-11s, I think that'd be great for him.
Yeah, I think just for me, one big point, agree with everything you guys are saying. It's just, the loss of Christian Barmore and the continued questions around Matthew Judon. I would say inarguably your 2 best pass rushers on the roster who, haven't been practicing. We don't know, what's going to happen with Judon, but I'm a defense guy. I love the pass rush. I think it's critical, and it's not totally devoid. I mean, you still have the Josh Uches of the world, and they're able to have some flexibility with guys like Tavai, but none of those guys are pure pass rushers. So I would just say for me, the emerging storyline around the defense is just the question of the pass rush and where are they going to generate those snaps that Christian Barmore, that production that Christian Barmore had, and is Matthew Judon going to re-enter the mix at some point?
Yeah, I think you're right to bring up Judon because that's sort of the lingering story. And it was unfortunate, I think, that they let it get this far, I think. But, you can't fix it. I think that the time to deal with this, the time to address it was in the offseason before they got to camp. They didn't. And now I think it's become a problem because as much as Gerard Mayo said that they had a good meeting, they felt like they were in a good place, and then Judon talks to us and he's talking about still being unhappy. And I said I'd play. I didn't say nothing about practice, and I think it's become an issue. I don't think we'll see him tonight. Based on the last practice, he wasn't in uniform, so my guess is he's dealing with something from a physical standpoint, and that's what Gerard said. All the guys that are healthy, so. there'll probably be, a dozen or so guys tonight that we won't see, and I think he'll be one of them.
Yeah, and some of those guys are guys that have been kind of practicing, but also kind of rehabbing. Like Pop Douglas, he's been in a red jersey pretty much, except for one day he tried to sneak out in a regular jersey, and they were like, get that red jersey back on. Guys like Tyquan Thornton, probably not going to go.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see Thornton, Joshua Uche really hasn't done much all summer.
Yep.
He's been out there every day
Right.
in pads, but he hasn't really done anything yet. Those kinds of guys, Chooks Okorafor. I think the last 3 practices we haven't seen him. Marcus Jones, last 4. So I wouldn't expect to see any of those guys tonight.
What did you guys think of Christian Gonzalez throughout camp? I know for some people they thought that he wasn't as smooth and as solid as he was his last training camp. Do you still feel like he's knocking some rust off? Or do you think he's not exactly, I don't want to say he's not practicing 100%, but just not putting it all out there at practice?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting development, Paul. I mean, he's given up some plays. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, I don't really, the one-on-one stuff where he's maybe just playing leverage in a drill and, the guy wants to cut inside and usually he would have help there and he's just, practicing that. But I do think that, and we talked about this, Paul, is he's just so athletic. Sometimes it doesn't look like he's trying, but I don't think that he's had, I think I would love to have seen him get his hands on some more balls just to be a little bit more around. I do think that Jonathan Jones and Christian Gonzalez are kind of just the 2 guys right now. And even when they do special teams periods, those 2 guys are working just with like Mike Pellegrino. They are cornerbacks. That's what they're going to do. But huge questions below them. And I don't think
that's where my concern lies. And I understand. I totally agree with you, Tamara. I don't think Gonzalez has been great. And I don't think Gerard Mayo thinks that Gonzalez has been great. And I go back to that, I want to say last Saturday, where he was asked about his thoughts on depth at corner, and he very unsolicited brought up, and that goes for all of us, even, because the question said, beyond Gonzo and Jonathan Jones, and he said, even Christian, greatness is not owned; it's rented. When you're an established player, it's not just okay. That's it.
Yep.
You've made it. So I think that was sort of a message that he needs to be better too. So I think you're right that he's kind of been a little uneven, but my concern lies, beyond that. I think it'll be Gonzalez and Jones. I don't know. Is it
Keep
Alex?
going.
Is it
Yeah.
Alex Austin? Is it Marcus Jones? Is it Isaiah Bolden?
Marco Wilson?
Marco Wilson. I could make a case for any and none of those guys. If that makes sense.
That's exactly how I feel. And Marcus Jones put him as another one who, unfortunately, has missed the last handful of practices. Would have loved to have seen him tonight on the kickoffs, which is another thing that we'll get to see tonight for the first time, kind of live and in person, is this new kickoff rule. We've seen a little bit of it in
I believe you're
practice.
contractually obligated to call it
the dynamic kickoff
rule.
It's going to be pretty dynamic. I think it'd be more dynamic for the Patriots if Marcus Jones was out there, because we watched him do this return a couple times during camp, and he looks like a nightmare trying to track down. They do have some other guys that they've tried out there. Jalen Rager's one. I mean, even Jalen Polk's been back there a little bit. KJ Osborne. Probably not going to be Pop Douglas tonight, but what have your thoughts kind of been just on that new kickoff? Finally, just getting to see it a little bit in person in practice, and now we'll get to see it competitively in the game.
I'm wondering how long it will last in terms of like how many touchdowns are going to happen before we realize, okay, we're just going to kick it into the back of the end zone and call it a day here, because you don't want to give up.
I'd be
lot.
satisfied if the ball ever got out over the 30, because the 7 or 8 that happened in the first game, the average field position was the 26-yard line. So touchback 25, they get into the 26.
Yeah.
Doesn't really sound dynamic to me.
Not
That's 'cause
dynamic.
they don't have Marcus Jones.
But Tamara's right. If it becomes an issue and teams are having a hard time covering them, they'll just go to touchbacks.
Yeah.
And that could happen. And it happens early in seasons in general. You see some sloppiness on special teams because of the stuff that all the cliches. They don't do this. They don't tackle to the ground. They don't generally do special teams full bore. And then in the preseason games, a lot of times the guys that are going to be doing it aren't doing it. A lot of those guys are trying to make a roster, and you might have 6, 7 guys out there that are fighting for a spot, and one of them might get it and be on that kickoff team come regular season time when the other guys aren't. So you get a lot of those. You get some big returns in the early part of the NFL season as a rule.
All right, well, I think we set the table. Maybe it's time for our keys to the game, guys, perhaps.
Ooh.
You've waited all week for it.
The whole team's in the locker room right now just listening to this, waiting to hear what you're going to say.
Here are Paul, Mike, and Tamara's keys to the game.
All right. We're just assuming Paul won last year. It's probably good to err on that side of it. But Tamara, you won a couple times.
I did.
So why don't you kick us off here tonight?
I'm glad to kick us off. My key to the game is let the trenches do the talking. Mike, you hit on it in the beginning of the show. The offensive line is going to be a huge part of the story tonight because I think that that's going to set the table for how productive the offense is able to be. I know a lot of people have been saying Drake May hasn't been productive because he's been with the 2s and 3s. The offensive line has been struggling. There's been a lot of guys rotating in and out, left tackle, right tackle. So I think looking at the offensive line tonight is going to be huge. I know Gerard Mayo said finding the best 5, it will play itself out in camp. We're almost done with camp. This is the first preseason game, so this is going to be a big first step into who they're going to pick for the offensive line.
Yeah, Vidarian Lowe, I think is. He's been at left tackle, Paul, for the last week or so.
I would expect to see Vidarian Lowe at left and Calvin Anderson at right to start the game because that's what we had the last 4 practices.
Yep.
Right.
Caden Wallace banged up a little bit. Not sure. I'm guessing he's not going to play. Chuks Okorafor has not practiced in a while. So as we said at the top, 4 tackles. It's not ideal, certainly at this stage of the game, but I like it. I like the key. Paul, what do you got?
Can you give me a little backdrop?
Drum roll, please.
Smooth operator.
I think my Sade voice.
I want my Sade. If we could play music, I know that's frowned upon.
I know, and I'm too good of a singer that it will actually pick up. And
I'm looking for the operation. I want a smooth operation tonight. I think that's something Jacoby Brissett talked about the last time we heard from him, which was, I don't know, they all blend together. Maybe Tuesday, Monday. I think it was Monday in practice. There's been a lot of pre-snap stuff, and I think that needs to get cleaned up a little bit. We've talked a lot about Joe Milton and Drake May coming from college where nowadays you look to the sideline, you get a symbol, and your play call might be a word. You're at the line of scrimmage, and everybody's looking. They're all on the same page. Yeah. It's not. We're not in Kansas anymore. It's all different. The play calls are much more convoluted, and that's part of the problem. You want to get the communication issues out of the way. Well, I want to see those 2 rookie quarterbacks, May and Milton specifically, but all of them. I want to see them calling the plays. I want to break the huddle, and I don't want to see, guys lined up wrong. I don't want to see the ball on the ground on a snap. I don't want to see delay of game penalties. I want a smooth operation. I know that sounds very pedestrian, but we haven't seen a lot of that so far this summer.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see some progress in that regard in the real thing.
I like that, Paul, because we have seen them huddle and then line up, then re-huddle again because everyone's not on the same page. Ball gets snapped, it falls on the ground, the clock's winding down, no one's ready. We've seen a lot of that throughout camp. So
you're not here for it, are you?
No,
you're not.
Smooth operator.
Time is money.
I like that, and Paul, I would build off of that as well. I'm not going to get my key just yet, but I thought that was a great one. It's just an underrated part of camp that I don't think a lot of the people have been talking about. It's just some of the the false starts, just the pre-snap stuff that, let's face it, it was kind of bad last year with that stuff too. So hopefully they can nip that in the bud. But just to build off that point, we haven't really seen them stack a drive together yet, with the play clock. And, we were so used to Bill Belichick practices situational. And there's time on the clock. You see the down markers. And, sometimes the old coach would, mess with it a little bit. Or I actually put it there. It wasn't, quite as straightforward. But I feel like some of these practices have been kind of, as Paul hinted at, I don't want to say stunted because that, intimates that but they're plotting and they stop and they think about it. And then sometimes these situational drills just end and you're like, what happened? Did they go 4 and out? Did they, they didn't even try a field goal, and you're left kind of confused. Yeah. So I'm also excited to build off of yours just to see them start to put a drive together and be in time and really start to string some things together.
Yeah. I think, I don't need them to go out, and run up and down the field, but I would like to see them maybe, put a couple of first downs together and get a little bit of rhythm going so you could sort of see where it's going. And, I don't need to see much. Give me a couple of plays for Jacoby Brissett. Give me a couple more for Drake May. I like to see him, but I don't need anybody out there, too long. Just want to see some rhythm get established.
I would love to see Drake May go with the ones, offensive line at least.
Yeah.
Just so we can actually see, okay, this is what it could look like.
Especially at center. I feel like that's been one of the pieces of these kind of struggles with David Andrews. Now, he was out, personal reasons. It wasn't an injury, but they've still continued to kind of manage him. It hasn't. He hasn't been every snap.
I wouldn't expect to see a ton of him tonight. Maybe he starts, but I wouldn't. He has nothing to prove, and certainly no rust to knock off. He's already been through it all. But I do think they've been searching for a backup center.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen Nick Leverett a little bit.
Pretty good.
We've seen Antonio Mafi. We've seen Gonna need your
Turner.
help here. Gonna need your help with someone else though. Who's the other guy they were putting in there? Wasn't there one other guy?
Mafi, Charles
it's just
Turner,
Charles Turner.
Nick
So-
Leverett, David Andrews.
Yeah, and and we should update. Some of our listeners might not be listening every day to our daily training camp casts, but they had to place Jake Andrews on injured reserve, and he's the guy that probably would have been a lead candidate for backup center.
Yeah.
So he's out for the year now. So yeah, that's a position I think that needs to be filled.
So Deuce's turn. Give my key. Building on what you guys said, and I mean, you're both I'm totally in lockstep with you. For me, it's May Day. I'm going to try to burn all my Drake May puns in the preseason, so we can get those over with, Paul, because I know they're annoying. But, I think what we've seen.
They're not annoying. You are.
Perhaps. I think what we've seen in the preseason and training camp is, they're trying to get Drake May to learn the offense. And, you can't really do that if he's bailing out of the pocket anytime there's pressure and, does what he, I don't want to say does best, but, uses his talents to get outside the pocket and make things happen. So I think tonight I'm hoping that we get a little glimpse of just kind of the special aspects of Drake May. And I assume that, there might be some bumps in the road as far as playing in the pocket, going through progressions, identifying, blitzers, that kind of stuff. It might be, not perfect tonight, but I'm hoping that when those problems happen, that we get a little glimpse of what Drake May can do, off platform, outside the pocket. He's got to move. He's got to run. I think those are the things that you haven't really been able to see in training camp by nature of what training camp is, of trying to build your playbook and your plays.
It's funny.
But I think tonight we're going to see some of this stuff.
I would love to see some of it, and at the same time, I don't want to see any of it.
I know, right? Well, and I hear what you're saying, and I think it's just the inevitable thing about NFL football is that it's very hard to be perfect. And, just a little reminder for everyone that's watching and, constant debate on talk radio of, how's Drake May been? Just a reminder that this kid has some special talents that aren't really being put to use yet. And, when we get into games, those things like,
I totally agree with you.
Somebody comes flying off the edge. We don't have a statue back there anymore. It's going to be a guy who can make some plays.
And just as an example, and this is just anecdotal, from what we watched, there was a play in the last practice that we got a chance to see that, Drake looked around, didn't find anybody, sort of bailed out of the pocket, rolled to his right, and then just tucked it and ran. And you might say, well, that's a sack, or you're not going to have that much time. But they're really, he stepped up in the pocket, took a quick, sharp turn to the right, and cut it upfield into an opening. I think that would have been a touchdown run in a real game setting. So to your point, Mike, how much will Drake May look better if he's able to use his power? Evan likes to call it, those are his superpowers, right?
Yeah.
How much better will he look when he's able to play the entirety of the position, not just the practice version where they want him in the pocket, they want him throwing the ball, and not necessarily looking to extend.
I like that, Paul. I feel like in practice, the training wheels have been on from that aspect of just, hey, we're trying to focus on learning the scheme and the plays that we want to run right now. But in the game setting, those wheels are going to come off. If he has his opportunities, he's definitely going to take them.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about, just Drake's camp overall, because it's been, I feel like it's kind of a gotcha question right now of are you disappointed with how he's been? And I guess my response to that question is, in my mind, if I had, you kind of have this dream that he's going to come in and it's just going to look amazing. And it's like, wow, we got him and he's ready. And, we even going into the season, we were talking about just play him. Just, that's where all of our headspace was at. And I think, training camp was a reminder of the reality that this is a 21-year-old kid that they brought another quarterback in who's experienced in the league, understanding that this most likely he's going to need some time to develop. And, that's what we've seen. There's been ups and downs, and, it's not the hot take of he's been terrible or he's been amazing. It's, I do think that there's been some steady progress and that, he's looked more comfortable. And, you also just get those moments where, yes, there are certainly moments where there's nobody open or, there's people in his lap or, there's a fumbled snap and, man, this isn't looking smooth yet. But then there are also moments where, and usually on 7-on-7, but he drops back, he just lets one fly and it drops right in the bucket. So you're getting these little glimpses of his talent, and that's what I think we're hoping he can all continue to stack these things and put it all together. And I'm not in a rush right now, and as much as I feel like I might have been in a rush earlier this summer, it's like I see what's there, I can see the talent. Let's just be a little bit patient with this right now, because if we are, I think it'll pay off in dividends down the road.
That's honestly exactly what Jalen Reagor said at the podium. He was like, that kid is talented, and in due time, you guys will see why he was drafted number 3 overall. And I think it's just going to take patience. The potential is there, and I think with patience, we will see the production. But I think my mindset when he got drafted was, this is going to be a project.
Yeah.
This was the definition of draft and develop. Like, we knew that, well, I knew that it was going to be something that needed to be developed, and it wasn't just going to be a 2-week training camp. He's ready to go. So I'm willing to be patient. I'm usually not a patient person, but I'm willing to wait around.
She's usually not here for it.
No, I'm usually not.
Well, we'll see how he does tonight, because my patience might go out the window if all of a sudden he's like rolling out and dropping a 90, like 50 yards in the air off 1 foot, those kind of things. But let's also talk, though, about the receivers, because I think that's a difficult position right now. Paul, you mentioned the cornerbacks, where it's like, the top 2 guys. But after that, it's, an argument can kind of be made for just about anybody. Jalen Polk's been pretty consistent. I got to say, though, Kayshon Boutte and Jalen Reagor, I feel like are maybe the other 2 guys that have just shown up the most often. I'm not saying that they've been impact players, but in terms of just volume of snaps and targets, those guys are kind of up there, too.
I'm going to say that I remain concerned overall. Demario Douglas, to me, is head and shoulders the best receiver that they have. I don't think anybody's been close to him. Probably next for me would be Tyquan Thornton.
That's scary to say.
And he's been limited.
We've already seen why we worry about him. He's said he was dealing with a soft tissue injury. He's been doing a lot of running the last couple of practices and not necessarily taking part in much of the 11-on-11 stuff. I thought there were a couple of days where he looked like he was putting consecutive days together and he was showing up. I think Polk, Baker to me is more of sort of the hit or miss guy. Like, he can make a wild play. Polk is going to be the guy that's much more consistent out of those 2. They both had their moments.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I think it could be anybody. I think you're right in saying, there was a couple of practices early that Reagor was showing up. Then there was a couple of practices more recently where Boutte showed up. Then all of a sudden we hadn't seen Reagor for about a week, and then he caught like 3 out of 4 plays in 11-on-11 from Drake May on the last practice that we saw. So I think all those jobs are still open. The one guy that I would say hasn't really flashed as much as the others is Juju Smith-Schuster. He's been sort of dealing with some drops and at times just not. I always make that comment, like, it didn't look right.
Yep.
It doesn't look right often when it's involving him.
Yep.
Yeah. Javon Baker, nice catch the other day, and it's just I remember when he got drafted, Paul, and I like my instinct, and I think a lot of people's instinct was like, kind of feels boomer busty to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it looks like.
It kind of looks like that.
He has those moments where you're like, that diving catch, you see his catch radius, his strong hands, etc., his speed at times, shiftiness, but then on the short passes, you're like, how did he just drop that? I'm confused.
Yeah, some drops in the last practice that we watched, and I was a big Polk fan. I think he's tough to get a read on. He looks like an NFL receiver to me. He's got good size. He's got strong hands. He seems to be able to make some catches in traffic, and it's just a question of how much can he bring down the field. And for me, that's the remaining question for this offense. I think they'll be okay if, going back to Tamara's key, they get okay tackle play. But, I think that's having a guy, and it's the same old song and dance, and Brandon Ayuk probably would have been this guy, but you've got some good guys underneath. And, the whole offense seemed to change, Paul, when Demario Douglas came out there. It was like all of a sudden
he's the
they
best
start throwing it around.
He gets open the most easily out of the entire group. So
I weirdly think that Jalen Polk might end up being like Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's a comp, and I still hold out hope that he's, no disrespect to Jacoby, who I love and is a solid NFL receiver, and is a guy that, I mistakenly let get away for Juju Smith-Schuster, which was stupid, but but along those lines, the guy on third down who you can look to when it's, maybe not 3rd and 14, but when it's 3rd and 6, and you need something close, and it's going to be a tight window, and it's going to have a guy right on you. Those are the catches that I kind of
and he's had moments where he looks like that kind of player.
Yeah,
I do want to talk about KJ Osborne before
there's always somebody you forget, like Kendrick Bourne too. He's waiting in the wings.
He's been better the second half of camp than he was the first.
Agreed, and I feel like, especially the last practice that we saw, I feel like he was good. He had some great catches. I think one in the back of the end zone. I think if I can remember correctly, but. Veteran guy. He doesn't do anything like wow, like a Brandon Ayuk, obviously, but he's been consistent, I feel like, the last 2 days.
And we kind of know he's a little bit of a known commodity, and that's why I kind of go back to the unknown commodities.
I think he's different than Polk, but similar in that I think he will be working out of the slot, and I think he's a little bit more explosive than Polk. But yeah, I thought early in camp, I was like, uh-oh, I don't see a whole lot here. And I thought the last couple of days, I thought you could see some signs of this guy can contribute too. And the other part that I would say about receiving in general is Hunter Henry, I think, has had a really solid camp.
So good.
Him and Austin Hooper too. I mean, just Hooper experience in the system. Early on in camp, just seems to know where to be. And what can you say about Hunter Henry? I mean, what is this? His 4th different offense in his 4th year here. I mean, he just consistently remains productive. He's not Gronk or Kelsey, one of the, but he's another guy that's just reliable. And it's great to have reliable guys, but I think we're all kind of craving explosive guys. And that's, when you try to sell the fans on a Jalen Reagor, who's been around the league and he's been with a few teams, and yes, he was a first overall pick and he has some pedigree, but when you look at them side by side with Booty, who I confuse them all the time because they look kind of roughly the same. They all got their jerseys up.
Rolled
and it's 80,
and
80 and 83. And I can know, I'm like, which one? But at least with Booty, it's only his 2nd year. And you feel like, well, maybe there's still something there that we just haven't seen. Whereas with Reagor, you're like, do I take the cheese on this again? Is now it's going to finally click for this first round pick?
Yeah, the thing to me with Reagor is he can run. And I don't see that kind of speed with Booty. I think he's another of like Polk and, the guys that we're talking about. He might be able to be a reliable guy, moving the chains, but I don't see a lot of explosiveness.
What do you guys want to see from these receivers tonight? I mean, I'm assuming that Polk and Baker are going to play a ton, along with probably Reagor and Booty.
I feel like Juju is going to play a ton.
Juju, maybe later. Depend. My new thing this year for a bunch of practices was just not tracking catches and just snaps. Who's getting the most reps? And it was, real noticeable that Juju was with lower groups, lower amounts of reps. And I think I said it to you guys during one of the practices. I'm like, he's going to be playing late in the preseason. This is, he's a guy that has to show he can do it, especially out there if you're going against, 2s and 3s of the other team in the defense.
If I was noticing in practice that I wasn't going out with Jacoby Brissett anymore, I was going out with Zappe and Milton, that would be telling me something. Like, I am doing something wrong here. Like, what? Like, I don't know. It'd be a reality check for me. And so I think tonight for him, he cannot afford to drop wide open plays and balls that, like, we saw multiple times last year bounce off his fingertips and into the defender's hands. That just happens too much for him.
I don't know. I'm not sure we'll see a ton of him tonight.
No.
I think he could play early. Like, I think we've seen him a lot with May. I haven't seen him a ton with Brissett in camp. I've seen him a lot with May. But I think, when you get to the second half, I think it's going to be some of those lesser, Jaquay Jackson, David Wallace, and there's Baker.
Kawan Baker.
Kawan.
Yeah.
I think those guys will get a lot of run. You might see Juju there too and Booty. But my guess is you're going to make your determinations based on how they look with Brissett and with May.
Yeah.
This is also a sleeper, but Kevin Harris. I feel like he's had a good camp. It's obviously hard to see because it's hard to see running backs when the offensive line is still trying to figure things out. But Kevin Harris, I've seen him show up a lot more this camp, obviously, than previous camp. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays tonight.
I mean, Elliot Wolf said we want to play young guys, and Kevin Harris has been here a couple years. He's been kind of waiting for an opportunity. Last year he got a little bit. It's kind of, I don't say now or never, but they don't have much depth there. Jermichael Hasty, another, guy. How much are they going to put Ramondre out there? I think you got to really protect him.
Yeah, and we'll throw a name out that maybe some of the listeners aren't as familiar with, is Terrell Jennings. And there were 2 undrafted free agents at running back. Deshaun Fenwick was the other one, and he was let go. He was a guy that I picked as a candidate because of the position. And he's, quite frankly, I knew a little bit more about Fenwick in college at Oregon than I did about Terrell Jennings, who I had really not been familiar with. I think Florida A&M, I want to say.
Right.
So obviously lower level. He's run well. He's shown some quickness and some toughness, I thought. And Tamara's right. It's hard to necessarily tell with running backs, aside from the one day that they tackle to the ground. It's hard to always tell how much effectiveness the running backs are having. But he's a guy that I think will get some second half run tonight. He might be able to make a team.
I thought he kind of catches the ball smoothly too. And I mean, he doesn't really have the size of that kind of back, but preseason is the time for running backs to shine, especially undrafted running backs. And I mean, we always kind of fall in love with guys, and sometimes it works out. Most of the time it doesn't. I mean, I'm like Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, wasn't that one who was like an undrafted guy? Like, I don't know.
He was not drafted.
Trying to think of some of those guys.
Eventually, I think 2 years later, was a 1,000-yard rusher. Yeah. Never fumbled.
Never, not once. Well, we think we set the table a little bit here, and you're here listening to the Patriots pregame show fueled by Duncan. Let's jump over to the phones though and see what the listeners are wondering. Going down to Atlanta. Hey Ray, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing? It's been a long time.
Oh, thanks for calling.
Hey, good to hear from each and every one of y'all. Great work as usual. I won't be long. It might not be the popular vote that I'm about to say, but I really think that Zappy should set it off as far as the first quarter, or at least a few minutes in that, just to get the nervousness out of the way. Because everybody, that's going to be the adrenaline, the scared round, and everybody's nervous and all of that. So, I know Bailey, he was iffy at practice, but he's not a rookie anymore. So he kind of he got a lot of things under his belt now. So he could set it off as far as the beginning. Maybe Brissett. I don't think they need Brissett in this game, but if so, it should be them two. Bailey or Brissett, either one, whoever go first, because they know the system, they know the way, and then some. And a little bit after the first quarter, maybe even within the first quarter, whatever, or after whatever, halftime, whatever. It could be May. It could be Drake May and Bazooka or Rocket, as they say, just to get the nervousness out the way, because right now, in their mind, they're thinking this is a Super Bowl game, and they just want to see what they're made of, and we all want to see what they're made of course. So I will be enjoying this. I will be wearing my Mac Jones jersey with tape on the back, if you know what I mean.
You got the May tape on.
Yeah, I got the tape on, and I'm ready, And like I said, I think that either Zappy himself or Zappy and Brissett should just set it off.
Yeah.
Set it off.
Yeah, it's not going to be. It's not going to be Zappy.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Ray. I appreciate it.
I think Zappy's an interesting guy because I think he's handled it exceptionally well. I think this is a really strange situation for a quarterback. I think he was told that he would have an opportunity to compete for the starting job. He has not gotten that opportunity. He gets very limited reps. He splits the third team reps with Joe Milton every day. So he is an afterthought. And I'm really surprised that his camp hasn't put out there that he would like to be moved.
Yeah.
And I would not expect him to remain on the roster through the end of training camp. He's not going to start tonight. Jacoby Brissett's going to start. And then you're going to see May. This is the NFL. There's some rookies that go out there that might have a little butterflies first game and all that stuff, but yeah, I mean, this is pro football. Like, you can't go by who's nervous. And Zappy no disrespect to him at all, but he's not been given an opportunity to compete.
Yeah,
I think he's saying and doing all the right things, but I think he probably deserves an opportunity to try to hook on elsewhere where he might be able to stay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to be in the long range. The only way he stays here through the start of the regular season is if the coaching staff just blatantly decides under no circumstances is Drake May going to play, so we need a backup in case something happens to Brissett.
Yeah, somebody to throw to the wolves.
And I think even if that happens, they'll go out and sign some backup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe someone who has some experience in that system.
Maybe they could sign Brian Hoyer, your partner tonight, Paul. We should tease that a little bit because we got a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah,
tonight.
I'm looking forward to being with Brian. As much as I hate giving up any airtime in the Bob's Discount Furniture Studios, we are going to be obviously leaning on Brian's expertise when it comes to breaking down these quarterbacks. I didn't play the game. Zoe played it, but he can't really talk about it. So we're going to have Brian Hoyer talking about what he's seeing with the quarterback. So obviously we're going to focus on Drake May, but some of the things that we talked about in terms of the verbiage with play calls, like how it looks, getting in and out of the huddle. Brian played in this offense. He played in Cleveland. He played in the system, the West Coast system. So we're going to lean on Brian a little bit and get his expertise in that regard.
Yeah, so Hoy Dog and Paul will be in the Bob's Discount Furniture Studio. I believe that's still the name. And
that is still the name. And
up in the TV booth, we'll have the McCourty twins with Zoe. And on the radio, we got Sosi and Phil Perry. So it's you got all kinds of different options to watch the game tonight.
No. There's only one option.
Paul's option.
TV.
Well, I look forward to seeing you on there, Paul. It'll be nice while I'm up in the press box. watching you mingle with Hoy Dog, which you guys did a Pats from the Past with him too. You and Matt Smith.
We did,
which was really good.
And to be honest, that's where this originated.
Yeah.
You know, we would talk. Matt and I were talking to Brian, and then afterward, Matt asked me what I thought of that as a possibility. Obviously, who am I going to say no? Like, no, I want it all for myself. And Matt, you know, talked to Brian a little bit, and you know, eventually Brian got back to us and said he would be interested.
Well, I got to say too, moving on, just going back to Joe Milton for a second, because this is where I'm here for. Like, I don't know what's going to keep us engaged third, fourth quarter tonight. If you know you're only here for Drake May and those guys, but like, just getting a chance to see Joe Milton play and go against the defense. You know, we know his arm. We've talked about all that. You know, he's made some plays in camp, but you know, he's just like you said, Paul. Not a lot of opportunities for him. I mean, it's just, all right, today he's going to get the third reps in 7s, and then Bailey Zappi gets the reps in 11. Hard for him to really string some things together. But tonight, you mentioned the opportunity for Bailey Zappi to kind of maybe put on display his talents for other NFL teams. But, you know, for Joe Milton, Tamara, like to get out there, to go against the defense, to, you know, and like, no offense to Joe Milton, but like, if he gets hurt, it's not a big deal. You know, it's like, just go out there and play. I'm not worried about him. But he has some athletic talents that are fun to watch. And I think tonight, that might be what's getting us going in the third and fourth quarter. It's like, all right, let's see, you know, what this kid can do once they get, you know, May and Brissett out of there.
Yeah, I think this is going to be similar vibes to like Malik Cunningham. Everyone couldn't wait for him to go into the game. Obviously now it's Rocket Joe, not Bazooka Joe, because apparently bazookas have a limit to how far they can go. So it's Rocket Joe. Rocket Joe. Seeing him tonight without the training wheels on.
I don't care for that.
Not my words. Not my words.
Rockets don't have a limit.
I think he's going to have a big night tonight. I
Yeah.
think he's going to have an opportunity in the
Yeah.
second half to play against, quite frankly, a lot of guys that,
Yeah.
you know,
Insurance
won't be
salesmen.
around.
Yeah.
You know, I like to call them the Sonny's Car Wash All-Stars.
Right.
And, you know, and you might say, well, it's still a higher level than college. Yeah, it is if they were all playing together.
Yep.
You know, in college, you're playing against Georgia, and they might not all be NFL players on defense, but they're playing together as a unit. You know, they're in sync. Tonight, it's mix and match with a bunch of guys that are just scrapping and fighting and clawing just to try to prove that they deserve another look for the NFL. And I think the guy is just so immensely talented.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's going to show.
I hope they actually let him throw it down the field, though.
Oh,
Like,
he
do you
will.
okay.
Oh, he will.
'Cause I'm just
Don't
like,
worry.
I hope it's not a bunch of just like.
I mean, pregame,
Screens
he's
and
probably. They better watch
slants
out up in the. I don't know if anyone's bringing the bell tonight up on the lighthouse, but you better watch out. Milton can hit him, but. Yeah, well, you guys are listening to the Patriots pregame show fueled by Dunkin'. And hey, Patriots fans, it's always game on with Dunkin', which is why grabbing a coffee is the most important game day ritual. I did it today on the way, grabbed the Dunkin'. Because the best call for football is Dunkin', the official coffee of the New England Patriots. America runs on Dunkin'. I'm running on Dunkin' right now. And
Tamara and Paul aren't.
Yeah,
No.
You didn't call and ask us if we
Exactly.
wanted
no
That's
Dunkin'
not a
for
good
you.
friend.
We didn't get
Not
any
a good
donuts either. We're trying to bring back the Dunkin' coffee cake muffins this year, Matt. That's we don't know what happened. Those were
I had a lot of technical difficulties before the show.
I don't drink coffee anyway.
We used to always get those coffee
my
cake
Diet
muffins. They
Pepsi.
were our favorites, but here we are. All right, let's jump back to the phones, though. Patty and Agwan's been holding on. Hey, Patty, happy new season to you. Hope you're doing well.
Doing all right. How's everyone doing?
Pretty
Great.
good. I think we're excited. Start the new season and get rolling to the regular season, I think.
Yeah, me too. I want a little bit of a rant, and I got a question for all y'all. So I'm seeing a lot of sensationalism about, like, Brandon Ayuk not coming here because we suck, and this is nothing new. I mean, Deuce, I'm roughly, like, right around your age, so I'm old enough to remember when this team was the laughing stock of the league.
Yep.
And we've seen it the last 2.5 seasons. So it's not a wake-up call. I mean, if anyone's been paying attention, we know this team sucks. And hopefully, like, May is a stud, and, you know, maybe as soon as next year you'll want some dudes to come and play with them.
Yep.
But that's it for the rant. And a question for you guys. You guys touched on wide receivers. Now, aside from the rookies, two-part questions. Who do you think might pop, not just tonight, but like throughout the preseason? And is there any one of these guys, minus the rookies, that you guys are sneakily rooting for? I'll take it off the air and let's freaking go, baby!
There you go. Was that a specific position that he was asking
I
about?
think
Wide
he's talking
receiver?
about receivers.
Receiver.
I got to be honest with you. I got nothing there. I just have no oomph at all at that position. I've seen very little.
No, it's
I like Demario Douglas. I thought he brought a lift to the entire group. His energy is infectious, and I think that they'll get some of that from Kendrick Bourne too.
Yep.
when and if he's able to be activated, because he's one of those energy guys. He brings it all the time. I just don't see a lot of dynamic potential with that group. I thought I saw some flashes from Baker, and I thought he kind of leveled off. He's probably going through some of that rookie stuff.
Yeah.
Day 11 of training camp, he's kind of starting to hit the dog days, but I haven't really seen a whole lot.
I mean, I might have said Taekwon, early on, but I feel like we're kind of back to square one with him. Maybe he can get back on track, but I think Osborne for me is a little bit, I agree with Paul. For me, Polk and Douglas are the kind of top two. Baker's been up and down, and, you still hold out hope that he can do something. But Osborne, he's kind of the unknown commodity, and I'm not sure exactly, how it's all going to fit. In Minnesota, he was what he was, playing opposite Justin Jefferson, and, but I don't know, maybe tonight he shows a little bit of something, but I'm basically with Paul. It's Douglas and Polk and Baker, I feel like, are
there's
the
no
long-term
stiffs.
guys.
They have all the same guy.
Yeah.
That's
to
me.
And I feel like I need someone to not just pop for one day. I need them to remain consistent. And I think that's tough for me to pick someone that's going to do that. Because right now we've seen a different person do it every day or every other day. And
I totally agree. And I'm not necessarily looking to see that in the preseason because you guys know how I feel. I kind of don't care.
Yeah, no, this is
Joe Milton I'd like to see it with Tamara's talking about. Can I watch 3 practices in a row where the same guy looks dominant?
Right.
Because practice to me means way more than these preseason games. And, we'll get through this week and we'll get to next week and it'll be even a little bit more telling, on the 13th when we see the Eagles here.
Yeah.
And see how they stack up. Not that the Eagles are, the measuring stick of the league, but it's a talented roster.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see how it looks then too.
Yeah, we should say if you guys are around next Tuesday, the 13th, joint practices, Patriots and Eagles, just one day only. Starts at 10:30 a.m. So get here early. I looked at the weather. Looks like it's going to be
and as of
beautiful.
Now, that is the last day of public.
Yeah.
The public will be welcome at practice. So that could change, but as of right now, that's the last day that the practices will be open to the public. So great day to get here if you haven't seen them yet.
It's a great day. Great day. Now, I know I was just pumping up the coffee cake muffins, but we're going to go to a donut now. Boston Cream, our friend of the show, friend of the program, checking in. Hey, Boston Cream, what's going on in Donut Land?
Program right there.
Hey, guys. I heard someone didn't bring in the donuts, so I thought I'd bring everyone.
They're coming.
Oh, no. We don't need that.
I just sent LePan.
Oh, for God's sakes.
He's fighting his way through the tailgaters to get a dozen.
I got a hit soon. Is he ready for me?
He's ready.
Okay.
Sorry, Cream. Go ahead.
Cream. Mr. Cream.
Mr.
Okay,
LeCream.
It's okay, guys. Long time no talk. First off, I'm excited to watch everyone's 2 favorite solar panels, Brian Hoyer and Paul, bring the heat. Not enough hair in that room, that's for sure.
Ooh, ouch.
Seems like an unnecessary shot, but...
Hey, donuts don't have hair either, hopefully.
As Andy likes to say, the truth is never mean.
Who is your guys' training camp crush individually? And Paul, what can you tell me about Tucker Addington?
That was well done.
Perfect. Thanks, Cream. Appreciate you.
You know what? I wish I had one.
A training?
I'm just going to throw this one out there. I'm going to say Jalen Hawkins. I'm not obsessed with him or anything, but I just think of all the new guys. They didn't need a lot on defense. He's been active. And, I talked to him this week. I asked Mayo about him. He's going to play a lot tonight. He played a lot in Atlanta one year, kind of got pushed down the depth chart when they signed what's-his-face from the Bengals, Jesse Bates. What's-his-face?
If you're interested in all pros and stuff,
I heard he's pretty good. Whatever. We got Jabril Peppers, so I'm not concerned about that. But went over to the Chargers and played a little bit, but he's just been active, and he brings some energy. I love, you guys know me, I love these active defenders that over celebrate any play that they make in practice. But got his hands on some balls last week, had for what I would have called a tackle for loss coming off the edge in the run game. Had a nice pass defense in the same practice. So he's just active. I expect he'll kind of be the guy on the back end tonight. Don't want to have Pepper. I don't even know if Pepper's going to play. He's been a little bit banged up after that first padded practice. So I'll say Jalen Hawkins. Why not? I think he's been pretty good.
Do you have one, Tamara?
I was thinking about it, and I was going to say maybe Alex Austin. I think he had 1 interception in camp, but just 1 full offseason with the Patriots. I'm excited to see how he's going to do this year, especially being thrown into the fire so late into the season last year, now that he's had a full offseason under his belt. I'm excited to see what the year holds for him.
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 guys that I didn't know a ton about before and have kind of stood out to me. One I already talked about, Jennings. Terrell Jennings, as a young guy, under the radar, probably practice squad candidate, if anything. Might not be ready right away, but he's flashed a little bit for me. On defense, a guy who I think will be a part of the picture is Tristan Hill.
Oh,
Good
one.
Up front, I think that I've noticed number 97. He's a high draft pick. He's a former second-round pick in Dallas. I think he's a guy that might, with Christian Barmore being out, might be able to listen, he's not Christian Barmore. He's not even that kind of a player.
Yeah.
But he might benefit from that absence and carve out a role for himself.
We'll have to piece some things
Did
together.
you think I was going to say someone else?
I thought you were going to say O'Shane Zimenez.
I got to be honest with you. I haven't really noticed him at all. I know all of my colleagues are writing volumes about his place on the edge, and maybe if Judon is going to do this and Uche is going to do that, and there's nobody there, maybe but
Yeah.
I got to be honest, I haven't really noticed them, but one day.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's more of a pick of opportunity for me. It's just they need a guy, and he's a try-hard, and I think those guys always seem to show up in the preseason. He's going to be going 100 miles an hour. What were you going to say about Keon?
Keon White. I was going to say he could be one that's interesting this year just to see how they use him, especially with Christian Barmore out. Are we going to see him more? Or I don't know. I'm intrigued to see how he's used in the defense this year.
He's another one kind of like Zimenez that sometimes everybody watches training camp in their own way, and there's 90 guys out there, and you can be watching one thing, and I believe me, nobody wants Keon White to be awesome more than me. I just haven't seen it consistently. I haven't seen him blowing up plays, or he's a big, powerful dude, and they got him playing defensive end a little bit, and he's standing up at outside linebacker a little bit, but maybe tonight signs are pointing to him playing a lot. I want to see him be impactful, and I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, and I have seen him flash a little bit here and there, but I'm kind of with you. I don't know exactly where he fits. I think he's a Dietrich Wise guy. Mm-hmm. I didn't mean that, but I think he's
Wise guy, huh?
I think he fits into that role. I think that's where he might fit best. And who knows? Dietrich Wise is one of those guys that's in the last year of his deal.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe a captain too. Let's jump back to the phones quick, and we're going to be welcoming in Darren Gant shortly from Panthers.com. Give us a little insight into Carolina and what's going on down there. But right now, we're going to jump to Florida and say hello to David. Hey, David.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. I had a couple things. I wanted to kind of issue a little bit of a warning to Patriots fans here. I don't know if he's going to be playing. But I don't care if he looks like Randy Moss against the Cowboys. Do not buy the Tyquan Thornton stock. Do not do it.
Why is that?
And I'll tell you. Well, I don't know. He's just like one of those guys that it's like with Nikhil. He got injured early on. He's shown some flashes, but he just really hasn't been able to sort of put it together in a real game. And so I just don't really believe in him.
Yeah, I mean I agree. He hasn't done anything in the NFL. Nikhil Harry never had any flashes. This guy has.
Yeah.
This guy's flashed a little bit. He's had 2, I think, really solid training camps, and he's been okay in this training camp. The problem with him is he's been injured, and that's a big part of it. The availability is a very underrated skill, and he hasn't been durable and reliable. I agree with David. I just think that they need somebody. Mm-hmm. They need somebody in that position, and I don't see anybody separating.
I will say, though, buy the Keyshawn Booty stock. Shout out Booty Clap Bandit.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. That's a Booty.
So I think when you don't ever play, there's that uncertainty. And if you do play and don't do anything, you stink.
Yeah. No, I know. That's the magic of the
But no one
unknown.
ever looks at it and say, why is that guy playing and the other guy's not?
Right.
Because maybe the coaches think that guy's better than that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if Booty had just kept his feet in bounds last week, last year in
Exactly.
week 1, he would have been a superstar, right?
I don't see it. I just don't see it with Booty. I don't see the.
It's not a trait. There's not, at least with Thornton, say what you will. There's a trait though. He's got, he's fast.
He's got good hands.
Yeah.
Keyshawn Booty has good hands.
Yeah.
I don't see him, drop a lot of passes that he gets his hands on.
Yeah.
And that's a great trait to have, but I don't see the explosiveness, the separation skills that, were kind of sold to us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe tonight he shows a little bit of it. We'll see. Keeping going on the phones though. Spee over in California, Fresno. Hey, Spee.
What's happening? I'm glad I avoided the daunting task of following Mr. Crean with a K. Too much to bear.
I think it's Dr. Cream, actually.
Dr. Cream. Damn it.
It's
Sorry,
a
Mr.
donut,
Cream, Dr. Cream.
donut doctor school.
Over under snaps for Drake May tonight, 15 and a half.
15 and a half. I think that's a pretty good number, Spee. I'm going to say under. I'm going to say under, but I think it's about that.
What is
15 snaps for Drake May, over under.
Drake May?
I like that number. I was going to say 3 series.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
so maybe you'd be a little bit closer. I mean, you're hoping if it's
You're
know.
definitely hoping for the over. I'm going to say under.
Yeah. I mean,
Wrong segment of the show.
yeah, we haven't got to over unders yet, Spee. Save it for later.
Oh, my bad. Well, then let me ask a different one. So, like, you guys on past shows, you've talked about like the potential strife, like given that Elliott Wolf has final say with the personnel over Gerard, and just to start a baseless rumor, I'm wondering like what you think of maybe the idea that maybe Mayo wants to pay Judon, but Wolf is saying no. I'll listen. I'll take it up.
Thanks,
So I like this question because I was actually thinking because allegedly the Brandon Ayuk thing fell apart and they're pulling back from that. I'm wondering now if Judon will get paid. I don't know if they were holding back maybe because they were like, we want to save this money for Brandon Ayuk or this number 1 wide receiver or an actual need, whether it's tackle, wide receiver, whatever it is. And then if we can't get that done, then we will revert back to paying more of our guys.
Yeah. I even wonder if Judon might have been involved in the package for Ayuk,
Yeah.
with
Or
Bourne.
that. So I could
Everybody
see
wrote
that.
about Bourne, but I wonder if they was, take Matthew Judon too.
Yeah, because I was thinking, okay, like maybe Elliott's like, no, Judon, like we have bigger priorities, which they do. They have other things they need to address first. They're not a wide receiver away from being a good team either, but I do think that maybe now that potentially with Ayuk being off the table, allegedly, maybe Judon will get paid.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to read an email right now because, Hardy's biggest weakness, Paul.
He never read the electronic mail.
And the second one was he dropped calls left and right. So far, I'm perfect on the phone, so thank you to the
You have a
callers.
strong phone night.
Not a great intro, but hey, strong phone night for Deuce. This one coming in from Johnny. Hey, I like the new setting and I'm excited for the new host, although I miss Hardy already. Yeah, well, so do I.
I miss Hardy.
It's 11:30 p.m. here. Will it be worth staying up for the game? You can tape it. You can watch it tomorrow if you don't feel like staying
Just
up.
stay up for the first 2 quarters.
There you go. I'll be in London for the Jacksonville game. Will someone from the PU crew be there? Probably Fred, at least. We'll get Fred there.
Evan.
Fred and Evan will be there.
Evan will be there.
Yeah, not the sexiest members of the show, but that's
not
all right.
the sexy people.
Not us. They keep us here. But concerning this game, what would make you happy and optimistic in this game looking forward?
So I would say, quite simply, some rhythm on offense. That it looks, in the first half, they put a couple of I don't even care if they score. Just put a couple of drives together where it looks like offense. A run for 5, a pass for 7, first down, maybe twice.
I like that, Paul.
And then for both quarterbacks, Brissett and May. Just give me some rhythm on offense. I know the bar is so low.
Yeah, string a drive together.
The bar is so low after the last 2 years. I want to see something that looks like it's better than that.
I like that, Paul, because I feel like so many times last year, it was so hard to stay awake, to keep my eyes open and watch what was happening on the field because the offense did not have a pulse.
Yeah.
So just to have a pulse and actually look like an offense would be amazing.
Got another email from Chris and Colfax. Hey, guys, 2 guys. I'm excited to see how they are used tonight are Marcellus Dial and Del Pettis. Either one looks like they could be dark horses to play free safety, or Dial could be another outside corner. Also, side note, Mike's next crush is absolutely going to be Georgia running back Branson Robinson. I would like to see Mike's reaction on the show if he hasn't seen him yet. Thanks, guys. All right, so I'm going to jot that one down.
Marcellus Dial is a good one.
And Paul's been all over him, too.
Marcellus Dial has shown up.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I've noticed him. We talked about who's going to be that extra corner.
Yeah.
I've noticed him a little bit. Del Pettis, I haven't really noticed. He made one play the last practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I haven't really noticed him.
Yeah,
very
Dial's
much.
had a few pass breakups.
I mean, you could see a
got good
ton
length.
of
Yeah.
Hawkins and Pettis
It's his
tonight,
size.
just based on Pepper's probably banged up. I don't think we're going to see
Probably
him.
something I should know. Huh?
Duggar, protect him. Josh Bledsoe's been banged up, just came back to practice last time. So, I mean, is he going to be ready to jump right into a game? I'm not sure. And then you've got A.J. Thomas, who they just signed, last week, a new guy. So I think it's a good bet that Jalen Hawkins, Del Pettis, going to get plenty of time. And Marcellus Dial's another one, Paul. We talked about
6',
those
190.
Solid.
Seems like he has long arms too. I don't know, just from the eyeball test.
He's one guy that you've been all over the last few practices, just kind of jumping out to you.
Well, I have an eye for talent, Mike.
You do.
They tell me. No, I think he's competitive. I don't know if he's ready for the roster. It probably will come down to if Gerard thinks that he has some value in special teams and whatnot, but. Late round draft pick, I could see some traits there. Same with Isaiah Bolden we talked about last year.
Both of them, late round.
And I think
corners.
Bolden has flashed a little bit in this camp too.
Yeah, not as much as I would have liked. I don't know. I mean,
You're
I'm
disappointed.
a little bit disappointed. I had high hopes for him last year. I just thought he had great size. He's real, he's got good length. But again, all those guys are just kind of all jumbled together, and some of them make plays and then they go quiet for a while. It is what it is. We'll see how it goes tonight. But sticking with the phones, let's head down back to Florida and say hello to Jason. Hey, Jason.
Hey, guys. Hey, thanks. Great coverage. Excited for the game tonight.
Thanks.
Curious on your thoughts. Obviously, you all have seen Drake May in practice. Is there any chance, coaching-wise, are they giving him? Are they overcorrecting a little too much, having him bite off more than he can chew? So, working on the footwork, working on the throwing mechanics, post snap. I mean, is there a possibility that they're just giving him too much right up front, or is this something that as a rookie they're still treating him with kids' gloves and he should be kind of catching on? I'll take it off. Thanks for the great analysis.
Thanks, Jason. I don't know. What do you think, guys? I mean, I don't know. I think this is what you have to do. I mean, this is what this kid needs is to.
I think he needs a lot of development.
Ground zero, footwork and, being in the offense. And I mean, I guess after kind of the Mac Jones era, if you can call it an era, I don't want to rush him. I don't want to break him. And I know we had this whole conversation, you can't, Andy's thing, you can't break a diamond. And, you want to be careful and you don't want to rush him into week 3 of, 2024 to prove a point. And, and then it starts to get jumbled. And so I guess I'm being more cautious now as we get going because you see the raw talent there and you just know that it's understanding how to play the game at the NFL level. And that's the biggest thing. Didn't play a ton of games in college, isn't his experiences, Jaden Daniels was. It is going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think you can't shortcut his success. I think you have to start with making sure he's developing good habits in his footwork and his technique, and then go from there. If you just start off with hey, I just wanted you to learn the offense and get him right out there and go without focusing on the little things first, then I feel like you're going to end up with some problems. And especially when you look at his tape in North Carolina and you point out all the things that need work, you got to start developing him now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's big step tonight, right? I mean, this is what it's all about, getting some live reps and everything, and just excited to see him get out there and see what he looks like, and with the team, the uniform, and all that stuff. So, hey, we're sticking in Florida tonight. We're popular down there, down in Jacksonville.
In
hey,
the
Todd.
Ocular?
Yeah, it's popular in the Ocular down there.
Nice.
Hey, Todd.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Todd?
What's up?
Good. Hey, so, switching focus a little bit from the players to the coaches, are you guys looking for anything from the coaches tonight? Paul may have already answered that a little bit, talking about the offense and team rhythm. But are you looking at anything for the coaches tonight, how they're going to handle it, seeing how we have, such turnover there, too, as well?
Yeah, good question.
I like that question, especially when you have two young, I want to call AVP young. That's wrong. Especially when you have
new
two
coordinators.
new coordinators, guys who are calling plays for the first time. Obviously, AVP has, stepped in and called plays, but he hasn't done it for a full season. That hasn't been his job to call plays. So I feel like for me, when you're looking at that, clock management, new head coach, all those things, those are things to look at today with, okay, how are they going to handle all of this? How many delay of games they're going to be? How are they going to handle calling plays? It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, DeMarcus Covington, I mean, he's been around for a while, but calling plays is a big thing. We've seen Steve Belichick do it, had a good feel for it, very aggressive. We're not going to see aggression tonight from a defensive coordinator. It's going to be pretty straightforward, I would guess. But good experience for both those guys. And yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a great storyline just to point out that these two guys are both, Alex Van Pelt, really, this is his first time kind of owning the offense, and it's his, and it's, he's molding it in his image. So we'll see how it's coming together. But I mean, I'm excited to see some of, DeMarcus Covington get that headset on, start getting the signals in, and see how it goes. Let's clear the phones, though, here as we're getting ready for Darren Gant to join us, and Paul's got to go do his hit at some point. 4 minutes, so let's go down.
Is he coming in person?
Yes, he is.
Oh.
But we're with Courtney down in Houston. Hey, Courtney.
Hey, guys. I'll make it quick because I know you said Paul's got to get on out of here, and Tamara's got a billion things to do.
That's right.
To you guys. Paul being a historian that I love, I wanted to just real quick on a parallel that I thought was interesting. So Mark Sanchez talked on Colin Cowherd, if you guys had a chance to see that. But he made a good point about Rex Ryan being a first-year coach at the time that they had Mark Sanchez, if I'm correct. And he said about that first year, man, that defense was tenacious. You had the Reeveses and you had all those guys, and it was really hard for him to kind of get that adjustment. Once they kind of had their guys the second year, they had the LaDainian Thomases, they had the other guys that were on the offense. Rex was talking about how they went more of a empty set because it was so much talent now that they had on offense that could rival their own historical defense. So my question to you guys, as a first-year coach for Gerard Mayo, how would you balance having such a tenacious defense that can do all of these things that are so far ahead of the offense? How do you keep them sharp while also maybe having them ease a little bit on Drake May and the other guys just so that they can actually start to feel that rhythm and find that rhythm? So I'd love to take that offline. And by the way, Tamara, not to sound weird, but you look amazing today. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks.
You look great too, Paul.
Hey, girl.
Hey, Paul. I like that. I feel like the defense has dialed it up in practice, but they're definitely not throwing everything they have at Drake May. Of course, they're going to want to show him a few things so he can get used to reading a defense, but they're not pulling all their cards out on the table against him.
Yeah, and I think it's good that they have what is supposed to be a good defense, so you can practice against, theoretically, you're practicing against a better defense than you're going to face in games.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it's working out the way you want it to. That certainly was the case with those Jets teams, back in 09, 10, 11, that era. We'll see what the Patriots defense is like this year. I agree with Tamara. I don't think that they've been necessarily coming after the quarterbacks. Not that they haven't blitzed. They've blitzed occasionally, but I don't think they've done it, an extraordinary amount of time.
It's more the back end rotation for me. It's showing one guy high, and then all of a sudden at snap, one of the guys drops out, and it's cover two all of a sudden, and that's some of my favorite stuff to watch. But I felt like Steve Belichick was a little more aggressive, even in practice. Like he would be throwing those zone blitzes, and you don't know where it's coming from, but that's what Drake May's
even the
see.
versatility of those guys, because they can use Hawkins and Duggar and Peppers, and who's high, who's in the slot, who's jamming, and the corners are, we've seen Jonathan Jones do a little safety, a little corner. So I think they're probably disguising a lot more with the secondary as opposed to getting after them.
One thing I was going to say, I was like, I couldn't imagine how much better the Patriots defense got practicing against Tom Brady. Going up against that every single day, I can't imagine how much better that made them for game day.
What do they say about that, Paul? It's like something does something.
Iron sharpens iron.
Right. That's what it was.
Going up against Tom Brady every day at practice.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and Bridgestone, the official tire of the New England Patriots, is proud to partner with Sullivan Tire, New England's headquarters for quality Bridgestone tires. Visit sullivantire.com to find a location near you.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off. From first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Nice. Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
Your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
oh no!
Replacements were shipped with FedEx, and with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Join the conversation by calling the Ace Ticket hotline at 855-PAT-500 or email the show at webradio@patriots.com. Live from our studios inside Gillette Stadium, here's Mike Dussault.
All right, we're back, and it's time to go behind enemy lines with Darren Gant from Panthers.com. I guess we're Patriots.com, he's Panthers.com. So, hey, Darren, thanks for joining us.
Is it enemy lines? I mean, the league keeps telling us that football's family,
right.
So we're all part of the same family,
Football
really, aren't we?
It's a family party.
Okay, yeah. So it's like a reunion of people we don't know.
Well, thanks for joining us here, and we're excited to get things started. Just so far, what have been your big takeaways down there from Panthers camp?
Everything's new.
Yeah.
New coach, new GM. The quarterback's the same as last year, but the system itself is so different from what was going on last year. It's like basically raising it down to the floor and rebuilding again. And they have got there's some talent on hand. But because everything is so brand new, and tonight won't even be a very fair barometer of it, because I don't know how many of those guys on the front line of the depth chart are even going to play tonight. We know Bryce Young's not, and a lot of other guys won't be joining him. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know how much of it pertains to this week, but I think in a global sense, they're developing something. Dave Canales, everybody talks about his energy, his positivity, and all those kind of things. But the thing that struck me about Dave since he's come in here is he's concentrating on the ball. His saying, I've heard it a million times already, is get the ball right, get the football right. And they know they have to do that before you can worry about just energy or any of that other kind of stuff.
Darren, I'm curious, with everything you said being new, with the new head coach and all of that, why do you think that they're not showing Bryce Young tonight? Especially with everything being so new, wouldn't you want to put him out there and see how everything is?
Yeah, I mean, and Dave talked about that the other day. He said there's two competing philosophies. Number one, you'd like to get some guys some reps. On the other hand, you got to protect them too, because you're counting on these guys. And they have gotten some opportunities coming up in the next week or so. The Jets are coming in for a joint practice. So there's those almost live reps that coaches seem to like, where it's a controlled environment and it's almost like a preseason game, but not really. The risk of this thing is in the preseason, if you put starters on the field and the other team's got some guy who is about the 87th man on the roster right now who's trying to make a name for himself, you could be putting your guys at risk. I mean, now obviously all these guys are out there trying to do the best for themselves, but you try to minimize risk as much as you can. And I think as time goes on, we've seen, having done this for a minute, you've seen joint practices become more of a thing. I think that will add over the years. I mean, it's going to only increase. Some teams are doing 2 of them already, and I think I could see a day where that replaces some of these games, especially if it ever goes to 18 games, something like that. So a couple of sort of games, a couple joint practices, controlled scrimmage type settings, and get them on out of here and ready for a regular season.
Well, Darren, since we're not going to see Bryce Young tonight, I'm curious, how has he looked at camp, especially coming off the season that he had last year?
This may sound insane, but things look normal around Bryce Young. I think what they're trying to do is get him back to where he was at Alabama. Bryce always had the benefit of playing with an excellent defense, a big offensive line, and a strong running game. So the emphasis has been, I think I've kind of laughed about it back home, because when you hear offensive mind, coach gets hired and he's an offensive guy, you expect passes going all over the place. Pew, 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 pew. And
Dave Canales is going to run the ball, gang. He is an old school. It reminds me very much of when John Fox and Dan Henning were running an offense that saw the Patriots in a Super Bowl. Number 38. That one worked out pretty well for you guys. But they were based on defense and running the ball. And I think for now they're trying to stabilize things around Bryce. They invested heavily in the offensive line, go out and spend a first-round pick on a wide receiver, trade for Deontay Johnson to get some targets in there to just kind of let him breathe for a second. I mean, Bryce took 62 sacks in 16 games last year, sixth most in league history. Thank God for Sam Howell, or he'd have had a rookie record. And Steve Berline, actually, Panthers legend in 1999, also took 62. So things they haven't always had this much offensive line talent in Charlotte, but they just want to stabilize and give Bryce a chance to breathe, let him hand it off. I would imagine come regular season, Chuba Hubbard is a name people are going to know after a little bit. And I try not to get too deep into fantasy numbers or anything like that. Chuba Hubbard going to get a lot of touches, especially in September and October. So they just want to make things normal around Bryce and then allow him to grow into the guy they still think he can become.
The big question here is similar. Last year, you guys drafted first overall, played the quarterback here. It's when is Drake May going to be ready? They went out and got Jacoby Brissett. What did you learn last year from watching a rookie quarterback get thrown into that fire, which is what a lot of people here are kind of just want no matter how he looks in practice?
I learned he's tough. Did I mention the 62 sacks? He's and he kept getting up. I mean, that's the thing. Coming out, obviously, so much attention was on Bryce's size. He is not a large man, not like Drake May. Charlotte's Drake May, by the way.
Yeah, there you go.
He's one of us. But he's not a big guy, but he's a tough guy. He kept getting up. He's got a little something about him. He's got some of those things that coaches like to say that we can't say on a family radio broadcast. He's got a little bit of that to him, a little toughness, and they think that's going to serve him well. I mean, and again, last year was just so broken systemically. When you fire a coach 2 months into a season, you change play callers 3 times over the course of the year. It was just systemically broken and nothing was going to work. So I think you almost flush last season, don't pay much attention to it, and just take the little bit of stuff you can glean from it, which is he will get up. He does have some toughness. We know he's smart. We know he's an accurate passer. Now you create a situation around him that allows him to show that off.
What do you think paid off, though, from playing last year? I mean, what are the things you think?
Scar tissue? I mean, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean,
new system. I mean, it's kind of start over in some regard.
It really is. And last year was bad. And having been around when Jimmy Clausen led them to a 2-14 that led straight to Cam Newton, having been around when some other guys led to 1-15. I've seen it. And last year was a bottom-out moment for the Carolina Panthers. And they're hoping that this energy Canales brings allows them to reset, in the same way. I mean, in 2002, the Carolina Panthers came off 1-15, went 7-9, were in Super Bowl 2 years later. In 2010, they go 2-14, draft Cam Newton first overall. You're 6-10 the next year en route to the Cam Newton we all saw in a Super Bowl appearance against the Broncos. So I think they're kind of in that same spot now of this is where you kind of reassess, rebuild, and figure out what you've got around Bryce.
Outside of Bryce Young, I mean, what are you looking for tonight? I mean, what are the Panthers going into this game? Are there any players, you think have a chance to maybe pop a little bit?
Yeah, well, one guy I'm curious to see is Caleb Chason. I mean, when you're in kind of a rebuild situation, you're willing to take flyers on guys who were highly picked. Former Jaguars first-round pick, pass rusher, who's got a little pop, but he's playing behind Jadeveon Clowney. Obviously he's not going to get a lot of – they're looking for him to be a third-type guy. He'll probably start tonight is my guess. And they're looking for options across the board. The other thing about being 2-15 last year, they've got first in waiver claim order until week 4. So they're going to continue to use that. They'll churn the bottom third of the roster between now and the first couple weeks of the season, looking at what everybody else has got. So, the scouts are probably looking at Patriots reserves the same way other people are looking at theirs.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Sleepers for today.
Sleepers for today. How deep of a sleeper you want to go? I would say undrafted rookie wide receiver Jalen Coker from Holy Cross.
That's where I went. That's my guy.
There you go. And I knew that, and that's why I did that on purpose. See, it's a family reunion.
Perfect.
I did my research, and I knew that. Sometimes these things just work out, folks. Coker's an interesting guy. I mean, for an
How's
undrafted
he look? Yeah,
rookie,
tell me all about it.
He's looked good. I mean, he's an interesting project. They're really deep at receiver, though. I mean, because when you stack up the first-round pick, along with Jonathan Mingo last year's second-round pick, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, there's 4 solid options at the top of the chart. So everybody's kind of fighting for 5th, 6th, 7th sort of reps. And Coker's got a guy who's got a chance to stand out in a preseason primarily because a lot of those guys aren't playing, but he's looked good early on in camp.
Size. I mean, I talked to him at the combine. I mean, of course, I'm an alum, so I love him. But just the contested catchability was his big thing. I mean, he jumped out of the gym. Have you seen the contested catch?
A little
the
bit of
downfield
that.
stuff?
And again, he makes tough catches.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to allow you to stand out when you're an undrafted rookie trying to make a team. The Carolina Panthers aren't deep at terribly many positions. That might be one of them.
Last question for me, Darren. Just, what do you kind of expect from this team this year? What does a successful Panthers season, second year with Bryce Young, look like?
Score some points. I think that would be good. Score touchdowns. People like those. People like it when you score touchdowns. And, I say that, and it sounds flip, but their last 2 games last year were both shutout losses. So, the energy was down. The points were down. They need to prove competence on offense. They need to stabilize things around Bryce. I keep using the word stable and normal, and that doesn't sound very flashy or sexy. That's why I don't work in ticketing. But at the same time, that's where you've got to get things normal and stable before you can begin to build to where you think you want to go. And I think that's kind of the goal for this year, is to make things normal around Bryce and see if he's the guy who's going to lead you forward.
Yeah. Darren, I have a question kind of off the field, but from a coaching standpoint, how do you think operationally it's going to go for you? Someone called in and asked us about our coaches, because so many of them are new to calling plays.
Right.
Is there any of that worry tonight, I guess, going into tonight's game?
I think there's a little bit of that always gets ironed out in the preseason, but the benefit is Dave Canales worked with most of this offensive staff in Tampa last year, so these are mostly known commodities. He and Brad Idzik know what each other's voice sounds like on the headset. Dave's still going to be calling plays offensively, so they're going to iron a lot of that stuff out. The defensive staff kind of returns intact from last year, so those guys kind of handle their own business. You guys over there do your thing. We'll be over here working on offense. That's kind of how it's going. But I think they're still trying to – that's what the preseason's for them too, is figure out how we're going to handle challenges and how the communication flows and those kind of things.
Awesome. Well, Darren Gamp, Panthers.com, thank you so much for joining us, coming in studio. Always nice to chat with you.
It's good to meet long-lost family members.
There you go. I know. We're family now, so I guess we'll see you at the Super Bowl maybe.
Absolutely. Maybe in a couple of years. Maybe that was the plan.
Right.
Remember, 2 years into this thing, see you at Super Bowl 38.
That's just how it works.
Tell Kristen Balboni I said hi when you get back.
I love KB. She's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world.
She's awesome.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Patriots pregame show is brought to you by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Nice. Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Join the conversation by calling the Ace Ticket hotline at 855-PAT-500 or email the show at webradio@patriots.com. Live from our studios inside Gillette Stadium, here's Mike Dussault.
It's easy to drink. It's easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. And look forward to having a couple Bud Lights this weekend, Paul, as the summer starts to wind down. This is kind of
Mike, we're on the air.
wonderful time.
You're going to have to wait for that, okay?
I'm going to do some drinking. We got to enjoy the nice days while they last here in New England.
So I'm curious. I stepped out to do my other obligation. Darren Gant came in and just want to get your impressions. What does he think that it doesn't sound like there's going to be very many frontline players playing, but
I was curious about Bryce Young just because of the debate here with Drake May and playing, and he mentioned how many sacks, I forget what the exact number was, that Bryce Young took last year, and it almost feels like a start over for them. So it's hard to really, with the coaching staff getting canned early last year and now a new coaching staff, it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of continuity. So I think that's, you hope that obviously doesn't happen here. It's not going to happen.
How did he feel Young was doing in camp?
It seemed okay. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to read. It didn't seem like he was blowing anybody away yet, but talked a lot about running the ball, Chuba Hubbard, so I think it's this kind of a similar situation where you're hoping that the ground game can do enough to protect your young quarterback.
So this could be good tonight then.
I think
a lot of them there running plays.
I think the Paul Perillo prediction of some of the
2 hours 45 minutes.
Oh, let's go. Let's get it going. Except for Joe Milton, hopefully no incompletions or knocking the tower over or anything like that. Let's jump over to the phones though and go down to. We're sticking with the theme in North Carolina tonight. That's where Kendall is. Hey, Kendall.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. I got one quick question for both of y'all. How do you, between now and probably, I guess, week 1 in Cincinnati, if y'all had to guess right now, how you think the wide receiver depth chart is going to shape out?
Gotcha. Paulie? Thanks, Kendall.
So it's a good question. I would say that the 3 guys that will be on the field together for the first time, that there's 3 guys out there. Let's put it that way. Because my guess is the first play is going to have 2 tight ends.
All right.
And
We're talking 11
right?
personnel. 11 personnel.
So I'm going to say Demario Douglas will definitely be one of the 3. He might not be the star. You know what I mean? Because if they only have 2, he might not be on the field.
Yep.
And then I'm going to say, this is tough. I'm going to go Jalen Polk, and I'm going to say that Kendrick Bourne's not ready. I'm going to say KJ Osborne.
Yeah, that's the 2 I would go with for right now. I mean, it's hard to count on anybody else at this point, right? Like,
if you ask me in 5 minutes, I might give you 2 different guys. Douglas would be a constant. I might give you 2 different guys the next time you ask me.
Maybe the better question, Paul, is do you think that there's anything that we can see in camp with the joint practice practice? I think we're gonna have Sunday, Monday. There is something. Do you think someone can separate and we'll know it?
And I think if we look at the personnel, the specific personnel, the first handful of plays against the Eagles, I think that will be telling. In the practice.
All right, jump back to the phones here on PP and the Deuce pregame show. Can we do that? Can we hijack the name real
Love
quick? PP and the Deuce pregame. Heading down to Virginia with Anthony with a question. Patriots record.
I
Hey,
don't
Anthony.
like this. I don't like it.
Anthony, hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, as we all know, the Patriots are definitely not going to be Super Bowl bound this year. It's been a year of change with new coach, new QB. But how do we think the Patriots are going to do this year? Like, where do we think the ceiling's going to be?
Wow, good question. Thank you, Anthony. I think that's, the $1 million question. That's you don't know anything anymore.
I don't. I'm going to say ceiling is 6 wins. I think that if they clean some things up, so delayed games go away, personnel, the timeouts wasted, which we've seen a lot of sloppiness the last couple of years. I want to see that get cleaned up, and you continue to play good defense, and maybe stay in some games. I think you could win, and this is provided that you stay reasonably healthy and the other team stay reasonably healthy. I think the schedule is difficult. So I'll say six games, 6 wins.
It's just hard, too, in context of what the actual schedule is and wondering when Drake May might get in. And you've got this weird thing of Buffalo twice in the last 3 weeks, and you've got the Chargers who, may be in the playoff mix coming here. I have to look at it through those lenses of, specifically if – I don't know what the record is. I'm kind of with you, around 6. It feels like they got 4 last year. If they just are better than the worst offense in the league, maybe they can get a couple more. I'm concerned about the pass rush, but when you look at it specifically through the lens of, does Drake May get in and start against the Chargers, and they're fighting for a playoff spot, and maybe the Patriots aren't, but the Drake May leads them against a team that needs the win and knocks them off, or Josh Allen, are they sitting starters, or are they actually playing for some kind of position? Or, is Buffalo in the playoffs already, or are they, potentially looking at a number 1 seed kind of thing? Could the Patriots upset them and derail some of their plans, kind of a la Miami back in, 2019, when not really much to play for, the Patriots still fighting for seeding, and the Dolphins came in here with Ryan Fitzpatrick and took it to them a little bit, promising not that Tua was in there, but that they had something going and that they got that monkey kind of off of their back. So I don't know. I look at it through that lens, and I think it's
hard.
Going back to '93 with Bledsoe, and does it necessarily have to be a strong finish with Drake May at quarterback? That's to me, that's what I kind of want it to be, and I feel like it has to be to really feel great about next season, where we've got something. Drake got in there. He can play. He's going to know the offense next year. We're coming back to that. Guys have seen what he can do. They're going to want to play with Drake May, those kind of things. But, if all 6 wins come in like November, and then they kind of go 0-4, and you haven't really seen Drake May yet, and, it's, I don't know, there's just so many different avenues. It's hard to predict.
Yeah, and it is. It's really hard to predict. I think that last year you would have not predicted that in the 4th play of the season, Aaron Rodgers goes down. Those kinds of things change the complexion of your schedule. Right now, I look at it and I'm like, in the division, they probably play 3 teams twice each that are better than them. Now, last year, you ended up winning 2 of those 6 games. Do they do that again? Maybe. Who knows? And then you made a lot of good points about when you play a team, if they're fighting for, my guess is those 3 games, those 2 in the last 3 for the Bills, those are going to be important games for Buffalo.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to sneak up on them and catch them, sleeping, playing against the team that they're probably well ahead of in the standings at the time, because they're going to need those games. So it's hard to predict. I think if you can somehow, I would call it a successful year if you can just sort of steadily get better as the year goes on and get Drake May some time.
Just
and show promise.
One more point too of Drake May going to Buffalo in January, playing a game in that kind of condition, in that kind of hostile environment.
Great experience.
Great experience. See how he reacts. I think, we both remember how things looked with young Mac Jones going up to Buffalo, and we're like,
but
I remember you going, he looks cold.
He looked cold.
Yeah.
And I think if they can get him some experience, I think it's imperative that he plays a handful of games here and like that, Buffalo, in bad weather, because he probably doesn't have much experience doing it, and that would be, I think, invaluable.
Yeah. Well, I got to read this email because comes from Alexander, who just said, "I'm a little disappointed in the lack of Jaws talk so far, but now that we're on PP and the Deuce."
Well, okay.
He does ask, have any of you guys read the book? And if not, I highly recommend it. It's a great read. I think I did. It's got like Mrs. Brody's having an affair with Hooper. Like there's all kinds of other stuff going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that didn't make it in the movie. And actually, if you look at Jaws 2.
Let's go.
The beginning of Jaws 2, there's an inference there that the hotel developer there, is having an affair with Brody.
How can you do that? It's chief. It's the chief of police.
Right.
I would also like to just say, public service announcement. Everyone can stop sending me the Orca Lego set. I know I'm aware of it, and I will purchase it as soon as I find $160 to blow on a Lego set. As an adult, maybe I'll get it for my son for his birthday.
But feel free to send in your trivia questions, because Mike Dussault has made a bit of a cottage industry appearing on 98.5 The Sports Hub, and being peppered by Hardy with Jaws questions, and he has really yet to miss one.
I missed one today, Paul.
Yeah, but it wasn't really a Jaws question. It was more of a music question.
Right. He's talking keys, and you know, I mean, it was F and F sharp or the dun.
Yeah.
I mean,
like that's not really a Jaws question. You knew the music. You knew exactly
that's
what
they have to do to get me, Paul.
Correct.
That's what they have to do to get me.
Correct. Because when you're this good, they're out to get you.
Do you expect any players to surprise us tonight with a strong or weak performance? I mean, not specifically. I mean, I think that's part of the fun is not really knowing that one random guy in the preseason who's going to have a good game, and then we'll spend the next 3 days. Doesn't mean anything that Terrell Jennings had, a 35-yard run in the second quarter, something like that. Like those kind of plays that, I mean, Paul, you've been watching preseason forever. Like, is there anything over the last 25 years that sticks out in your mind when you talk about something from the preseason that really made you go, wow, that was interesting?
Yeah, but like I would ask, I can think of a handful of individual performances that really stood out. Like, you want to really get into the weeds?
Let's go.
Like Brian Timms. Do you remember Brian Timms?
Sure, yeah.
I remember a couple of like deep touchdown catches and people losing their minds,
Bishop.
Go back further, Sean Morey. Same kind of stuff. Just these individual plays that happen. Austin Carr. Remember Austin Carr?
Yeah.
They're neither surprising nor, expected. They just happen because in the preseason, I'm sorry to sound like this. It just, like, it doesn't really matter. And a lot of those guys that we're talking, Bam Childress, a lot of these guys that we're talking about, they never even made the team.
Yeah.
Some of them stuck around, practice squad, kicked around here or there, but they worked hard and they were good players, but they just weren't quite good enough, Someone I'm expecting to, who would I be surprised? I can't say anybody. Like, I could see any of the receivers that we've talked about, catching 5 balls for 70 yards tonight. Kayshon Boutte absolutely could do that tonight. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me.
David Wallace is kind of in that mold of guys.
David Wallace would surprise me. He's struggled.
But he's in that mold of, like, the little white slot receiver that's kind of quick. Like, I don't know. It's just that was
and he's
like,
going to play the whole second half.
He's going to play the whole thing, right? He's going to be dusting that 7th slot cornerback on the depth
chart. Joe Milton's going to be buying time, and David Wallace is going to be springing free.
Big high archer. Yeah. I got to admit. I mean, come second half, I'm Joe Milton time. Like, let's just go.
But do you agree, like, I think sometimes I can get dismissive, and I don't necessarily mean to.
No,
with the performances, I just don't think.
I've been doing it long enough to know that, there are certain guys that, and I hate bringing up Gunnar Olszewski, but that was just one where coming out of that last preseason game where, he had an interception, like he was just playing a ton, and you're like, and it was annoying because you're like, well, he's not that good, and
he wasn't,
and he ended up making the team, for a variety of reasons, but. For the first game tonight, and I think everybody's still kind of recalibrating, or just there's no set formula anymore for the preseason about who plays when, of dress rehearsals, of the fourth game being only the guys who are on the bubble. It's just each team seems to be handling it differently. And Carolina's not even going to play Bryce Young tonight.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen moving forward. Gerard said that everybody's going to play tonight, everybody that's healthy. My guess is that won't be the case next week because you have the joint practices. So I'm curious next week if we ask him, say on Monday or Tuesday, he might say, no, like, some of those starters, they got their reps today, against Philadelphia.
All right, let's a couple emails here. Jack in Ann Arbor, he says his training camp crush is Keon White. Again, I wish I could say it. Like, I want it to happen, but like I have to see it. And maybe tonight he's a guy that plays a little bit and makes some noise. He certainly has the disposition
Make
to
some noise.
All right, this is I'm going to butcher this name, but hi, I'm going to say Diarmite, I think. I don't know. UK, sorry for busting it. From Castellan, man, in Ireland. Jeez, my Irish ancestors are turning over in their grave. Hoping for a good start tonight. Just like to say, not getting Ayuk is a good thing. Don't think he's a top 5. Think in time May will come good, and hope we can keep Judon and wait to see next offseason for a top wide receiver. I just say, Paul, I know they got out, and you don't get points for trying, but I just would say I'm encouraged that it just seems they understand they need that guy. And when those guys come available now, whether it's, CeeDee Lamb or whatever, I just feel confident that they're going to try to be in the mix with a lot of these guys. And maybe, those guys aren't going to want to come here yet, but at least I feel like they understand, and it's not going to take a depressed asset who's a star wide receiver for them to go out and grab that guy. It seems like they get it. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm not overly disappointed that they didn't get Ayuk. I like that they suddenly just put it out there yeah, we're out. We're not going to be used as a bargaining chip. And as we see this is, continuing to drag on with Ayuk, it's definitely a piece the offense needs. And I think they understand that. So that's what I'm encouraged by. I'm not overly disappointed. And, I think it's just going to give a chance to these younger kids. And, hopefully Baker or somebody can pop on the outside.
So I totally agree with everything you said. And I don't have any problem with either side. I think the Patriots aggressively pursued a guy that was available. And that guy decided he didn't want to come here. And that's his prerogative. And I have no problem with either side. I have a problem with, okay, we didn't get him, so I'm glad we didn't get him. Because he's not a top 5.
I didn't like you anyway.
What does that even mean? He's not a top 5.
Yeah.
So he's what? He's 8? So, yeah, I don't want him because he's not top 5? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you got to put a number on it. I mean,
I'm disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I was on this show on Tuesday on Unfiltered. We were here. A little bit of a different set. But, we were here, and we were all excited. There's an elite player that's available, and the Patriots are going after him. That was exciting. And I'm sorry, it was disappointing the next day to wake up, 2 mornings later and read that, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just
that he wasn't interested in coming here. That was disappointing.
I always we joke about XYZ 1, 2, 3. He would have. That's the piece they need, and I don't know where he ranks in the league, but that is the piece that they need. They seem to understand it still. So,
he was going to get paid like one of the top receivers. Yeah, and there's going to be other guys that are going to get paid more. It's going to CeeDee Lamb's going to get more.
Yep. Yeah.
So at what point do you just say yeah, I want one of those? Yeah. I don't care about the money.
No. And in a perfect world, that they would develop it. They would draft it. I mean, in a perfect world, Javon Baker develops into that guy, and you get a couple years out of him before he starts, kicking his heels about, I need a new contract now. That's the way to do it. And we said it all off season, and you got to rebuild through the draft. You've got to stack these draft classes. And, I think some of these guys have shown promise, and, but there's still work to be done and a lot to learn about a lot of these guys on this roster. And, well, Paul, we're going to go back to North Carolina, Jared, because
a lot of North Carolina tonight.
I know. Well, hey, the Panthers are here, and sounds like Jared's got a Brendan Schooler question. Hey, Jared.
Hey, guys. Just kind of a random one. Does Brendan Schooler add anything other than special teams? Last year, I was kind of getting pretty irritated with his antics on punts.
Yeah.
Got a lot of personal fouls.
Yep,
and stuff.
he did.
I was just wondering, is he adding anything on defense, or does he?
Depth.
They're trying to see if he can.
Thanks,
Mayo has talked about that, and it's a really good question. I don't think he does. I just don't see it. But they're giving him opportunities with second and third groups to provide some depth on the back end at safety. And I don't know how you feel, Mike, if you think I'm being harsh. I haven't really seen much of it, but I think as a special teamer, he's a staple on those units. But you're right to point out his lack of discipline last year. I think it hurt the team at times. He had to have 2 or 3 unnecessary personal foul, sort of pushing and shoving after whistle kind of personal fouls. Not I'm getting blocked and maybe I got a guy's face mask.
Extra
unfortunate,
business.
but just hot-headedness, pushing and shoving.
And he talked a little bit about it with Slater retiring, that he's hoping to step into a little bit more of a leadership role. And thanks to Matt Morrell, just let me know. Tweet here: Bryce Young will have plenty of company on the sideline at Gillette Stadium tonight. Thank you, Matt LePan. Sorry, 32 other Panthers players are sitting out versus the Patriots, including just about everyone of significance. So it is what it is. Nobody, we're not here to watch the Panthers anyway. And as Paul's been kind of saying, he thinks it's set up well for the Patriots maybe to have I don't want to call it a get right game, Paul, but maybe some of these lower end Panthers players, like guys from the depth chart, that will give the Patriots some opportunities just to work. They're not going against the star kind of players, maybe.
Yeah, I would think that the Patriots number is going to be less than that. Maybe 15.
Yeah.
Just not in uniform, but we'll see.
No inactives tonight.
Yeah, you don't get any of that stuff.
And Tony from Toronto writes in, did Julian Edelman return a kickoff in the preseason his rookie year? I feel like I remember a video of Bill needling Welker about, yes, it was, I believe, a punt, actually, which he returned in his rookie year. Big return for Edelman. Bill then had to ask Ernie who preceded, what was it, the Wally Pipp, right, was before.
Yeah.
Joe DiMaggio?
He said something. No.
Who was he with? You're the baseball guy.
Lou Gehrig replaced Wally Pipp.
Yankees.
And that's what he asked Wes Welker if he had known him.
He can have it.
Yeah, he can have it. Huh.
Way to compete.
Good luck. Way to compete, Wes.
It's burned into my brain.
And we never heard from Wes again. No, that was sort of indicative of that sort of relationship kind of.
Yeah.
Starting to fray a little bit.
Yeah, I was catching up a little bit on Hard Knocks the other day. I was just watching a little bit of the Welker coaching in Miami. Just weird. We'll never get used to seeing Welker down there in Miami. But question from Johnny in Hamburg, Germany. When will we? Well, he does give me a little compliment about how I'm doing hosting, but we'll leave that out. But thank you. When will we get a feeling about the new coaching regime?
Was he ripping you?
No, he said you're doing a great job.
I was going to say, I think you're doing a fine job.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
After a terrible start.
I know, the start was bad. I was a little thrown off because it's just the new open. It was so amazing by Matt Morrell.
No, I think you've done a fine job.
Matt used AI in the production
Steering
of
the ship.
Yeah,
and
we got AI songwriting now here on the show.
He hasn't dropped one call. Matter of fact, I'm going to text Hardy right now. Say, not one missed call.
I'm waiting for Fred to call in and then purposely hang up just to get me. I'm surprised Hardy hasn't done it. He's probably already asleep, though, Paul. He's got to get up very, very early.
That's true.
He's got to get his beauty sleep there, but we do miss Hardy. And I should say, we didn't give out the key, the ultimate key.
Nah.
And Tamara's gone.
You do have it, though.
So I don't know. Maybe if we get somebody want to call in, maybe we'll give out the key.
Not that I'm lobbying for it, but
smooth up.
Where can we hang that in there?
Well, shouldn't there be a place of honor in here? I don't know.
Might as well just hanging around my neck.
We got like 16.
I'm going to win it 13 out of 18 weeks. So
we got a bunch of footballs. I don't know. Maybe we put it over one of those, but yeah, we'll if somebody wants to call in or you recommend what was the best one. I think Tamara had some about the offensive line.
Left here.
I had something about May.
Why don't we let the listeners
let the people decide? We're men of the people. Well, we're gonna let Grant from Manchester
too before we're done. Don't forget.
Oh, I won't, and I'm gonna kick it off right here with one before we get to this. Is an unofficial one because it's coming from Grant in Manchester. Over under on Joe Milton backflips, 1.5.
I'm gonna say under.
Do you think he's wrapping it up? He's keeping the backflip.
I think he might do it at practice and stuff, but I don't think you'll see it on the game field. Maybe we'll see.
I've seen him launch one right into the lighthouse, double backflip, boom. Boom, roasted. But why don't we hop right in though into those over-unders right now?
It's time for this week's edition of Over-Unders.
Oh,
it's awesome. I know.
There's nothing like when Matt just starts doing this little bounce.
That does give you a little fire. I know.
I like it.
All right, here we go. 2024 over-unders. Jacoby Brissett drives started 2.5.
Paul, are you going to recuse yourself from this one?
No, so I know where you're going with this, but I'm going to say under anyway. I'm going to say under. I think he starts the game, but I don't think you'll see very much of Jacoby Brissett.
You think? All right. Yeah, I'll go under 2. Why not?
I'm going to give you the under there, too.
Drake May touchdown passes 1.5.
Oh,
you go first.
Over.
Over. Mike just wants to be excited.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm going to say under. I think a lot of times these preseason games are not the most artistic when it comes to precise offense.
Yeah, probably fair, but I'm an optimist.
Sorry, I'm dancing. Longest Joe Milton completion, 35.5.
135 or just
No,
35?
35
Oh, just
and a
35.
half yards.
It'd be only-
That's a long completion. I don't throw it out the window, though. I'm going to say under. This is one that I would say would be fun, though, if we could see some big plays.
Fun. We're all about the fun here.
Mike's about fun.
I'm going to go under 2, though.
Oh, not so fun tonight.
Patriots miss kicks, 1.5.
Oh, Chad Ryland, Joey Sly. What do you think, Paul? You think they'll go back and forth tonight, or just one guy goes and next guy gets another
I think they'll go
game?
back and forth.
Back and forth.
But that's not one that I have any inside information on.
Let's go under. Yeah, nobody misses nothing.
I'm going to say under as well. They're not going to miss 2 kicks tonight.
That's ridiculous.
Not too much blood
Especially
here.
against backups.
Panthers total touchdowns, 2.5.
Oh, geez, under. Come on. It's like there's 6 stringers.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under 2. There's 32 guys not playing. Yeah, under.
O'Shane Zimenez alone will prevent any touchdowns.
And a total final score of 35 points.
That's so many points, Matt. That's so many points. I'm going under.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. And I just made myself sick by picking 6 straight unders.
Well, it is the preseason, and pretty good. All right, we're off. We got some over and unders. We didn't no six pack. No six pack this week, right? Nobody cares to pick
no
the preseason
six.
games.
No 6 pack this week.
No.
But the instrumental's great.
The instrumental was great. Add a little flavor. Great job to the Matt on that.
Oh, I meant the new 6-pack instrumental.
Oh yeah, they're all great. I like them. Well, let's keep the games going, though. Sam from Maryland providing us with a little game, which is more likely, no matter how silly. So we like these. All regular season is included. We'll start with number 1. May starts 3 games or doesn't get first in game reps until week 15. So you think he starts 3 games or he doesn't get in until week 15? I guess he could
Why
start
can't he get
week 15 and then get
15,
both.
16, and 17?
We just poked a hole in your question there. But what do you think? I don't know. How many games do you think he plays?
I think he'll start. I think he'll start. I'm going to go with 6 games.
6 games.
I can name that tune in 6 notes.
6 wins, 6 starts. I see what you did.
Whoa. 6 wins, 6 starts.
Judon plays 5 games for the Patriots.
Fans, do you think, just out of curiosity, if they won 6 games this year and May started all 6 and won all 6,
like the last 6,
do you think fans would lose their ever loving
Why didn't we put him in earlier? Yeah. But it'd be exciting times for sure, especially you knock Buffalo off twice in the end. Like that'd be pretty sweet. Judon plays 5 games for the Patriots, or Uche gets 9 sacks. What do you think's more likely? It's weird because I think those things are totally connected.
Games.
Those things are totally connected. Like if Judon didn't play 5 games, I don't think Uche gets 9 sacks. But if he does play 5 games, it's more likely.
I know what you mean.
That
Without
Uche gets
Judon,
those sacks.
with Judon, I think Judon will play 5 games.
Yeah, me too. And Uche's been a little dinged up. I'm sure he won't be out there tonight.
Seems a little perturbed.
Yeah, you signed the deal, guy. I don't know what you want. You could have waited. Patriots have 2 Pro Bowlers on offense or 4 Pro Bowlers on defense.
I'm going to say 2 Pro Bowlers on offense.
Yeah, 4's a lot.
Yeah.
Especially without Barmore.
I don't think either one of those things is going to happen.
2. You see Michael Wenyu maybe. Maybe he
I
gets
mean, I
in
could
there.
make an argument for a
Wenyu and
lineman
Stevenson.
and, one of the skill position guys, Hunter Henry.
It's a good one.
I don't know.
Mike has 3 swear words during all the shows this year, or Fred personally recruits a player to the team. Well, I mean, I've made it through so far without a swear word, but
Not
we'll see
tonight.
about that. We'll see about
it's a very happy deuce. There's no swearing under your breath.
Well, Paul, they haven't played a game.
That's a post-game
We know,
thing
yeah,
anyway.
we know.
That's a post-game thing.
What usually gets me to swear, though, is it when I'm perturbed with the
Usually
team?
a 10-7 loss.
6-0.
Yeah.
Oh, yikes.
Go F yourself.
Love the show and can't wait for the content you all produce. Best Pats group by far. That is right, Sam. And we're excited to keep going here with our new studio. And, of course, still time for a call if you guys want to call in. We're starting to wrap things up. Start at time 7 o'clock. And, again, if you missed it, Paul's going to be in the Bob's Discount Studio Furniture with none other than Brian Hoyer. The furniture in the studio will not be discount, though. It'll be really nice stuff. They'll look great. But
yeah, it's a
be
little
fun
different for anybody that might be tuning in later in our show and hasn't really heard any of it. The regular broadcast tonight that we're going to have is going to be a little different than it has been. Scott Zolak will be in the booth as usual, but instead of having Bob Sosi with him as he does on the radio, he's going to be joined by Devin and Jason McCourty. and there'll be a 3-man booth. There'll be a lot of conversation, a little less focus on down and distance and things like that, and more focus on sort of big picture development of the young quarterbacks. Gerard Mayo's first year, first game, and the new coaches, 17 new coaches on the staff. Be a lot of talk about that in the Bob's Discount Furniture Studio, not studio furniture, but furniture studio. Will be myself and Brian Hoyer. And Brian will be hopefully on the telestrator a couple of times breaking down some of the plays that the quarterbacks are involved with, specifically Drake May, and probably maybe a little Joe Milton in the second half if time allows. But it'll be some conversation. So I'd appreciate it if you guys listen and give some positive feedback. And, you know, because I'm very excited to be part of the show again. And I think the tweaks that we've made in the broadcast, and I love Bob Sosi, so this is not meant to be a shot at Bob, but this is, I think, is a little bit more conversational as opposed to that traditional play-by-play. And I know some people don't like that, but I think if you really give it a listen, it should have a good sort of analytical feel to the broadcast tonight, as opposed to just kind of giving you what you're already seeing.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of we have high hopes for this.
Do you think will they spin off anything? Any clips of this? I mean, it feels like this will be prime territory to spin off a clip of Hoyer providing some insight.
For
maybe
much higher level,
asking him an expert question
grades
that really gets to the heart of the matter, and Hoyer
Brian,
expands
you played
on
the
it.
game. What is he seeing right here?
You might know this.
Yeah, I'm going to do a lot of probably teeing up Brian, and because I like. Listen, I'm not one of these guys, and I tease Evan a lot, but I'm not one of these guys that pretends to know. And I like football. I like watching. I know when I see a good play, and I know when I see a good player. But players know schemes and blocking assignments and routes and coverages, and I like to lean on players to tell me that stuff. And I think that's what we're going to be doing with Jason and Devin. And certainly for the quarterbacks with Brian. So I think it's going to work out well.
You got offense, you got defense, you got, Zoe. It's. I mean, Mitch in Albany will be happy. He emailed in, is there a Perillo cast that I can watch tonight? So they're not calling it the Perillo cast, are they?
They should. I think that would do well in the Pat McAfee show, I think. He seemed to like me last year when he was ripping me for my accent.
PP and the Hoy Dog, I don't know. I mean, it's that
doesn't have the same.
It doesn't have the same. PP and the Deuce is the best one. But yeah, so, real quick, though, Paul, we mentioned it's going to be practice Sunday. We got a joint practice on Tuesday. Anything you kind of feel like in this next week the team is going to need, regardless of what happens tonight? I mean, this will be, we'll get a bunch
That's
of
a great question.
Input,
you probably wanted to bring that one up before the
No, that's what we do.
4
minutes left and we bring up a little
That's
preview.
a great question, in all seriousness. Like, what do they need? I think they need a tackle.
Yeah. Health in a couple
They need
places.
a tackle. I mean, I don't care if they're all healthy. They need a tackle.
Yeah.
They haven't had anybody that looks like he could play left tackle. Am I wrong on that?
No.
So they need tackles, probably 2 of them. And, they probably need a cornerback. I think they need a running back, too. Like, I think there are still – I'm going to be interested if Elliott Wolf goes the Bill Belichick route, at cut down, and it's not necessarily the 53 that you keep. It's maybe the 50 or so that you keep, and then 2 or 3 others that you take from someone else.
Yeah, 2 points for me. Just Ramondre Stevenson, I just think is such a valuable piece again. And when he went down last year, it was just, and especially now where they're telling us how much the offense needs to, be predicated off the run. I think that he's such an important piece. Would love to just get Marcus Jones back there. And it's frustrating with him because, let's face it, it's year 3. It's injuries. I mean, he had a pretty good start to camp. He was active. He was around. And, without him, there's just not even that he's a clear answer in the slot, but he was at least a intriguing option that you haven't really seen get a full chance yet. And, we were hoping after the break last weekend when they had Sunday off to come back to Monday's padded practice that he would be back. He wasn't back. I mean, he is coming out there in pads at the end of practice. Like, it's kind of weird. All of a sudden I see him like pop up and it's like, wait, did I miss him today? Because he's out there in pad. But, I think it's I don't know if that's different about this era. I mean, am I forgetting, Paul, that
Who are you talking about specifically?
Marcus Jones? Like, like guys tend to come out now. Like, and I don't remember that as much in the previous regime. That
usually when you saw guys come out, it was guys that have been, like Kendrick Bourne would come out, like a guy who's been out for a while, and you start to see him come out, and you're like, oh, he's getting closer.
Yeah.
We're seeing guys now like Tyquan Thornton, Joshua Uche, Marty Marpu. who they haven't really done anything, and then they're out there, so you don't know exactly what's going on. But yeah, I think it is a little different in that regard. Marcus Jones, I think that he came out and he threw a helmet on and caught some punts. I don't really think he necessarily was ready to go.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It was, and then even like Marde Mapu, he's missing, and then he comes out and he's just kind of man on an island watching practice. I mean, it's they're kind of in the same boat, these young players. Mapu in his second year, Jones in his third year. That injuries have just derailed them. And if there's one thing I can say for some of the rookies, and certainly not all of them, it's just that Polk's been out there every single day. I mean, Baker missed a few days in mini camp, but he's been out there every single day. May's been out there every single day. Caden Wallace has gotten banged up a little bit, and that's unfortunate. I truly wonder if he's gonna dress tonight. Would love it if he's able to go, because I just think, am I crazy to think going into a preseason game with just 4 tackles, especially 2 that right now are like the last 2 standing that are even any kind of hope that you have? Other guys, an undrafted rookie, Kellen Daish has been around. It's it's like, right, if Vidarian Lowe went down tonight, as much as we kind of say Vidarian Lowe's not a left tackle, like they're in even deeper trouble.
Yeah, so they have guys though, right? They have. So it's going to be Lowe and Anderson to start, and then you're going to get right to Wallace
and Henry. I don't know if Wallace goes. He's
Wallace should go. Why?
He's been kind of banged up a little bit. Yeah.
Has he been?
A little bit. Yeah.
I haven't seen him miss any time.
I think he's missed a little bit.
Maybe
I'm crazy.
All right.
We'll see.
If he, I'm expecting him to play. And then that guy they just signed, what's his name?
Kellen Daish. Yeah.
Zuri Henry, isn't he a tackle? 65, right?
Exactly.
He's a tackle. Well, who's playing at this time of year?
That's the whole point.
He's Andrew Stuber. Let's go.
Thanks for asking. All right, that's going to do it for the Patriots pregame show, fueled by Duncan. Had a great time here, and we're excited to kick off the season here in our new studio, new regime, new quarterback, the whole deal. So we're hoping that you guys will stick with us throughout the season. And, of course, we'll be back at training camp next week. Plenty of camp casts and the traditional PU show, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 to 2, kicking up to Wednesdays once the season starts. So thanks for joining us, and enjoy the game, and come right back for the Patriots post-game show.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.